Chapter 568. The immortal Great Peace. An imposing and vast city floated on top of an endless black sea. The city seemed to be floating on the surface of the sea and stretched out as a thick yellow line across the horizon. Let's head down. Tang Fei jumped first off the sandstorm insect carpet. Flying is not allowed in this area. Hearing this, everyone dismounted and put away their steeds. They couldn't help but exclaim at the scenery in front of them. The vast and boundless sea in front of them caused them to feel minuscule. Walking forward a few steps, Zuemo went closer and then said in surprise, "This black sea is not naturally formed?" And it isn't. This black sea is called the Unsullied Sea. At the time, Grandmaster Shi Ming planned to build a city. The heroes of the world gathered, gifts delivered from 7 marshals, and 46 generals that came from all corners of 100 Savage Realm to personally participate in the construction. After 3 years of building, they formed this immortal city of great peace. Tao Xing sighed and said, "At the time, there was only a pond by Great Peace City. There was an endless flow of people that came to visit. Every pilgrim that had traveled here would bring along a bottle of rootless water from their homeland to pour into the pond. The pond grew, and after 200 years, it formed a sea. 100 years ago, 2 marshals took this sea and harvested black dark heavy water from the 9 nether ground of the Dark Realm, forged them with secret techniques to form this unsullied sea." Zuemo's mouth gaped after hearing this. What kind of person was this Grandmaster Shi Ming that he had such terrifying power? Everyone behind him, including Tang Fei, had astounded expressions. Zuemo had been muddled about the strength levels of in the past. He knew them now. Every marshal was a powerful warlord. Any of them was someone strong enough to alter the power structure of the world. Even generals were lords of an region. 46 generals that spent 3 years building a city for this person. If Tao Xing had not said it, Zuemo definitely would not believe it. Tao Xing's expression was devout as he stared at Great Peace City with a thread of pride. "My ancestral master also participated in the construction of Great Peace City." Zuemo finally could not suppress his confusion. He asked, "Who is this Grandmaster Shi Ming? Why does he receive such reverence?" Tao Xing's expression became reverent. "Us Mo's pursuit of power is like an instinct. We will do anything. But there are also some virtuous ones in our history who are not strong but have had unrivaled intelligence. They are able to see through everything and point straight to the heart. They are selfless and revered by tens of thousands of Shi Ming's life can be considered a legend. He was found sentient at a very young age and learned better than most people. He himself did not have any martial ability, but his understanding of the core of power is something no one can rival. He roamed all over, and everywhere he went he would give talks to pass what he knew to others without asking anything in return. Those 7 marshals and 46 generals had received his guidance. He resolved countless conflicts and spread his favor all over. He is revered by an innumerable number of people. Zuemo had to admire this person. Able to teach marshals and generals, what level was he at? "Let's walk and talk." Tao Xing looked at everyone's expressions and said with a smile. He walked first towards the Unsullied Sea. When he stepped onto the surface of the Unsullied Sea, a black porpoise came out of the water and supported Tao Xing's weight. Zuemo saw this and was very interested. He copied Tao Xing. As expected, another black porpoise supported him. "These are welcoming porpoises. Everyone, there is no need to be nervous," Tao Xing hurriedly explained. Everyone stepped onto the surface of the sea and a crowd of porpoises instantly appeared to carry them towards Great Peace City. The black porpoises occasionally let out happy chirps. Tang Fei said seriously to Zuemo, "No matter how powerful Hing Battalion is, they will not dare to attack in Great Peace City. Up until now, no battalion has dared to fight in Great Peace City. However, you need to be careful. While Great Peace City does not permit battalions to fight, they do not stop individual fights. Because of the cultivation teachings that Shi Ming passed down in the past, Great Peace City is a combative one. Those that refuse challenges from other people will be laughed at." "So it is like that." Zuemo nodded. Even though his battalion could not match others, he did not fear other people if it was one-on-one. Right now, he and Tao Xing were ants on the same string. Their glory and defeat were tied together. Zuemo suddenly asked, "Will there be MO marshals?" No. Tang Fei's expression was strange. Did this guy think that the MO marshals were so idle they could lazy about every day? She thought inside, but she replied seriously, "There will be many general levels. Because the complete contents of what Shi Ziming had taught in the past is in the city, many MO generals that are stuck at a bottleneck would come here in search of a breakthrough." That's good, that's good. Zuemo instantly felt much safer. Tang Fei did not say anything, but she felt extremely awkward. She hadn't expected Zuemo to be so confident that he did not care about the other MO generals. However, she did not have any intentions of urging Zuemo to be careful. She wanted Zuemo to trip up. Great Peace City was full of strong people. It had been decades since one faction had dominated. The black porpoises were very fast, but even so, they had swam for 4 whole hours before they reached the gates of Great Peace City. Arriving at Great Peace City, the tall soaring walls cast a shadow that covered them like a black cloud. They caused people to feel their own significance. Zuemo raised his head. He was uncertain just how tall the walls were. The porpoise carried Zuemo to a group of stone stairs. The stairs moved up towards the gates. Zuemo piggybacked a guay and jumped up the stone stairs. The black porpoise chirped happily before diving back down into the unsullied sea. The group followed Zuemo closely and occasionally sighed, Tang Fei included. It was her first time at Great Peace City. Stepping up past the stone stairs, the area spread out flat in front of them. A space that was thousands of zhang in radius was flat as though it was cut from one piece of stone. It was extremely smooth, and all kinds of complex and beautiful MO matrices that were carved into the ground were like a grand carpet that spread into the distance. Such vast grandeur astounded everyone. Even Zuemo was speechless. Looking at such exquisitely carved MO matrices, everyone almost didn't bear to step on them. So grand. Extremely grand. Sighing as they walked past the city gates, it was as though they walked into a completely different world. A wave of loud noise came at them. Everyone's heart relaxed. The vast acquisitiveness at the gates almost suffocated them, and the familiar scenes in front of them jerked them back to their original world. Their minds relaxed. The streets were very wide, hundreds of zhang wide, and could hold large-scale MO steeds. It was possible to see MO riding MO steeds of all kinds of strange appearances. The MO themselves also had different appearances. Some had horns, others 4 legs, some had wings. It dazzled Zuemo's eyes and stirred his curiosity. But Zuemo quickly felt scared. In this short amount of time, he had found at least 6 Brigadier MO. Great Peace City was, as said, filled with experts. Brigadier ranks were the core power of a battalion. Their skill level was directly related to the strength of the battalion. In those more remote jia, brigadiers were even able to rule a small region. Naturally, brigadier level was not something that Zuemo would sigh and wonder about, but he had found 6 brigadiers on the street. Then how great and terrifying was the number of Brigadier MO here in the city. Up until now, he had not noticed even 1 general rank. But this was enough to raise his wariness. Tao Xing seemed to notice Zuemo's shock and said in low voice, "Do not be rash. The structure of powers in Great Peace City is very complex. Any MO here could have a great faction behind it. If you offend too many factions, you might not even know how you died. Even though Great Peace City does not permit assassinations, how is it possible to stop something that occurs in the shadows? Do not be rash." Tao Xing had lived in Great Peace City for a time when he was young and was familiar with everything. This time, he felt danger when he had been attacked by the green yaksha on the road. Now that he entered Great Peace City, he felt much safer. There were many experts in Great Peace City and also many factions that would be willing to give him face. The only thing he worried about was Zuemo. He had spent a long time in Great Peace City and seen countless youth that had been left bloodied by Great Peace City. These young geniuses were filled with pride and did not know how deep the waters in Great Peace City flowed. Right now, he was stuck together with Zuemo. If Zuemo provoked trouble, he would not be able to avoid it. He also owed Zuemo a lot of Mo embryos. Thinking about these Mo embryos, he wanted to go back to Endless City immediately and pay back his debts as early as possible. At this moment, a ruckus sounded. An enormous troop walked proudly at the center of the road. They were all blue dragon rhinoceros that were 3 zhang in height. Their bodies were covered in thick, shield-like scales. Their steps were extremely heavy, and with every step, the ground trembled. The entire troop rumbled and caused the ground to shake. A bald large man sat on top of the blue dragon rhinoceros at the very front. He was extremely well built, and his skin was a strange faint blue that contained black patterns. His face was in a snarl, the small eyes flashing viciously. Sitting on top of the blue dragon rhinoceros, his body sway with the steps of the blue dragon rhinoceros. Noticing Zuemo's gaze, Tao Xing glanced and quickly recognized the other. It should be the Lan family from Luojia. They are one of the branches of the Dragon Mo and natural-born fighters. The most outstanding of the younger generation is Lan Tianlong and Liang Rong. This one should be Lan Tianlong. Zuemo's eyes narrowed slightly. He was very familiar with Lan Tianlong's presence. General level. This was the first general level he encountered in Great Peace City. This place was filled with experts. Zuemo's heart shuddered. The other did not disguise his presence at all. A vicious and domineering presence spread out without any restraint. Just that presence was enough for Zuemo to judge the other's power was not weaker than his. Zuemo's gaze swept past Lan Tianlong and he looked further away. Suddenly, his pupils shrank and his body froze. He didn't hear one word of what Tao Xing said next. Zuemo stared hard at the back of a blue dragon rhinoceros, his body as tense as steel. Chapter 569, Lan Tianlong. The Lan family is a very old family. Their history can be traced back thousands of years. They rule 3 jia. Their conduct is in the open yet strict. They are brave and skilled in battle. However, ever since 500 years ago, their family has not produced a marshal, so their power has declined, that is, until Lan Tianlong and Lan Rong appeared. They are the most accomplished members of this generation and have been labeled as geniuses who are likely to enter martial level, especially Lan Tianlong. He is extremely strong and was able to establish himself securely in Great Peace City. The presence of the Lan family has grown as well. Tao Xing talked about it as though it was a family affair. He had once lived in Great Peace City and was familiar with this ancient family. On a roll, Tao Xing did not notice Zuemo had put down a gui. The prestigious families are all families where marshals have appeared. Those that do not have marshals, even if they are strong now, cannot withstand the power of history. In the eyes of others, they are just the nouveau riche. They do not have strong foundations, and cannot be truly called large clans. In Great Peace City, families that do not have fundamentals are looked down on. Tao Xing suddenly stopped. His eyes widened, his face full of terror. Zuemo lightly leapt forward under his terrified gaze and landed on the center of the street, blocking the advance of the blue dragon rhinoceros troop. Lan Tianlong's eyes narrowed, and a vicious light flashed. He lightly tapped the blue dragon rhinoceros with his foot, and the blue dragon rhinoceros stopped. The entire rhinoceros troop stopped at the same time. The Lan family Mo on the backs of the rhinoceroses looked viciously at Zuemo that was blocking their path. The noisy street quickly quieted. Everyone looked in surprise at Zuemo. Lan Tianlong had been in Great Peace City for more than 3 years. In these 3 years, he had had hundreds of large and small battles but rarely lost. The Lan family had regained prestige in the eyes of the public due to this. In Great Peace City, Lan Tianlong was famous. When everyone noticed that someone had dared to stop Lan Tianlong's rhinoceros troop, they were very shocked. In a blink, the enormous street emptied. Shu Long and the others did not move. They did not know what Darren was doing, but they were very calm. They were blindly confident in Darren. Tao Xing opened his mouth, his face shocked. Zuemo's suddenly action caused his mind to blank. Tang Fei, Shou Ping and the others changed expression and were terrified. In the now silent and empty street, an enormous rhinoceros troop and a lone figure faced off. It's been a while since I came to Great Peace City, It seems that everyone doesn't recognize old Long anymore. Lan Tianlong smiled darkly. His sharp teeth flashed with frightening light under the sunlight. He raised his head and looked down at Zwam. Boy, you don't want to live? I'm asking for a person from you. Zwamo's tone was deep. Those familiar with him would be able to detect the fierce emotions suppressed under his deep voice. The emotions were like the raging flows under the thin layer of ice that rampaged soundlessly. Asking for a person? Lan Tianlong's tone was surprised. He narrowed his eyes. Which person? The 7th blue dragon rhinoceros. In the cage, the one in the blue robe, Zwaemo said coldly. Oh. Lan Tianlong glanced over towards the 7th blue dragon rhinoceros. He quickly found the target. A youth inside the cage with unfocused eyes. The youth looked with a puzzled and slightly shocked gaze at Zwaemo. If Wei Xing was here, he would definitely recognize the youth in the cage, Luo Li. Zwamo's second Shixiang, Luo Li. Lan Tianlong chuckled. This little Xiozha. He's pretty handsome, you want him? Ha. Crack crack crack, Zwamo's hanging fist gave off a string of crackling noises. His life on Wukong Mountain flashed in front of his eyes. Even though he had separated from Wukong Sword Sect due to many reasons, he had deep feelings towards Wukong Sword Sect. However, he usually hid these attachments deep inside. Now that he saw Luo Li Shixiang in the cage, his mind exploded. Something happened to Wukong Sword Sect. Something had definitely happened to Wukong Sword Sect. Zwamo's blood seemed to burn. Fierce murderousness was like a fierce beast freed from its cage that charged at his mind. Every part of his body was trembling, uncontrollably trembling. How was it possible? How could it be possible? His eyes filled with blood. However, Zwaemo was more accomplished than in the past. He had seen more and experienced more. He took a deep breath and suppressed the turmoil inside. He suddenly raised his head, his bloodshot eyes staring at the other. He slowly spoke, his voice deep and hoarse, emphasizing each word. According to the rules of Great Peace City, I challenge you. Boom, everyone in the surroundings exploded in noise. The rules of challenge in Great Peace City was if both sides accepted the challenge, then it was alright to kill one's opponent and not get punished. In other words, the challenge must gamble with their own life. Lan Tianlong's gaze suddenly became extremely vicious. His murderousness spread without restraint. All sounds of discussion suddenly choked off as though someone gripped their necks. The spectators were both scared and excited. Lan Tianlong's almost tangible murderousness rushed at Zwaemo like furious waves smashing against the shore. Even from far away, a person would be affected. Tang Fei and Shou Ping's complexions were ashen and bloodless. In front of such raging murderousness, the strength of a brigadier was as minuscule as an ant. Their hearts instantly sank. They could not understand why Zwaemo would provoke such a scary opponent. Was he insane? Tao Xing recovered from his shock at this time, and his face was as white as paper. He felt great regret. Why had he told this person the rules of challenge in Great Peace City just now? He really was an idiot. Lan Tianlong had not expected the matter would become like this. He was not afraid of battle. How could anyone that came to Great Peace City be afraid of a challenge? However, it depended on what it was for. He felt it was absurd to accept a challenge for a worthless slave. What made him feel a thread of uncertainty was he detected a twinge of danger. The youth in front of him looked extremely average, but for some reason, he had a premonition of danger, like he was being targeted by a poisonous snake. He had been through hundreds of battles and was extremely experienced. He believed in his intuition. He knew that this intuition was an instinct hardened through battle. Lan Tianlong narrowed his eyes. The murderousness grew. Faint blue mist erupted from his body like steam. In this moment, Lan Tianlong's aura caused even the sun in the sky to lose color. Suddenly, Lan Tianlong gave a loud roar of laughter and his murderousness disappeared without a trace. Such heroic mannerism. Good man. Lan Tianlong, like meeting good men like brother. Speaking, he waved his hand back. Come, get that slave. A subordinate quickly carried Luo Li over. Since brother likes him, I'll give him to you. There wasn't any brutality on Lan Tianlong's face, only a face full of sunshine and undisguised admiration. There wasn't any trace of insincerity. Zuemo was surprised. Lan Tianlong seemed to have switched to a completely different personality. His face changed at a fantastical speed. However, Zuemo also felt some admiration. Normal people could not change like Lan Tianlong did. The rumors that he was a brutal killer were not true. This person had a scheming mind and was not a simple-minded person. Many thanks, Brother Lan. Zuemo was not a stupid person. Just now, he was fighting with his back to a cliff. He did not have any certainty he would win. Lan Tianlong smiled widely. Just a small matter, nothing to speak about. To be able to meet a hero like brother, it is all right to give them all to you. Finishing, he took down a metal token from his waist and threw it to Zuemo. Zuemo caught it. Brother, if you are free, come to my rundown compound to drink. There's nothing else, but there will be enough liquor to make sure brother gets drunk. Among the loud laughter, the rhinoceros troop rumbled as it moved. The voice came from far away and was extremely carefree. At this time, Zuemo really did admire this guy that appeared rough yet had a deep mind. From beginning to end, he did not ask Zuemo's name and his conduct was free. "I'll definitely visit," Zuemo said in a loud voice. The street resumed its normal activity. Many people showed admiration. Lan Tianlong's move didn't damage his reputation but allowed people to feel his charisma. As to Zuemo's group, they did not attract too much attention from the people around them, but a lot of attention from those in the shadows. Zuemo helped Luo Li up and turned to the others saying in a deep voice, "Find a quiet place." Tao Xing and Tang Fei seemed to wake up from a daydream. Releasing a breath, they hurriedly led people to find a place to rest. Right now, they were startled birds. Zuemo had ran up and challenged someone without a second word. If this occurred a few more times, they felt they would be frightened to death. Luo Li suddenly spoke. His voice was dry and hoarse. "Who are you? Why did you save me?" He had been surprised just now. The other had pointed right at him, so the other must know him. But when he carefully inspected Zuemo's appearance, he was sure that he had never seen this person before. What was even more unbelievable was that he felt something familiar about this person. But no matter how hard he tried to think, he could not remember who the familiarity reminded him of. Zuemo whispered in a low voice by his ear, "Second Shixiang, Ima Zuemo." Luo Li's body shook, his expression freezing. A moment later, tears poured down. He finally understood why he felt the other was familiar. "Do not say anything. We'll find a quiet place and speak later." Zuemo's calm voice caused Luo Li to calm down. In this moment he was very emotional. The little greedy shitty had grown to such a state. To Tao Xing, who had stayed in Great Peace City before, finding a big compound was naturally easy. As the city master of Endless City, Tao Xing was extremely rich. Without even a change in expression, he rented out a big estate. This estate was so large that it was more than enough to hold everyone. Guard Camp, Celestial Planet Guard, and Tang Fei's battalion instantly started to set up defenses. Zuemo hurried everyone other than Luo Li and Agui out. There were too many mysteries that needed to be answered. What had happened? Chapter 570, Causes and Consequences. Luo Li's voice was deep as he recollected the events, as though he was sleep-talking. The Chaos Rift appeared and the MO battalions invaded. They came so suddenly we did not have the time to flee. Bright Wave Jie started to gather all the major sections. The ones in charge were some people from Kunlun and they were very strong. The sect leader and the Shirshu were all called over and put on the front line. Zuemo punched the floor and shattered stone flew. His fist became deeply embedded in the flooring. His features were twisted and vicious. Even though everyone had separated, but the Shirshu had all been good to him and, in their own way, taken care of him. Zuemo had command battalions and he knew that the front line was the most dangerous place. It was also where the fighting was most intense. Not many could survive. There were only two types of people that would be sent to the front lines. One was elite troops, the other was cannon fodder. Ever since eldest Shixiang disappeared from the Sword Cave, Many groups of people from Kunlun came to ask the sect leader about the sword cave. One time, the argument became intense and Exen Shirshu almost drew his sword. After that, our sect's position started to decline in Bright Wave Jia. Other sects started to antagonize us. The disciples started to leave. Luo Li's gaze was empty and unfocused. The sect leader felt very depressed, but the other Shirshu were all right. The disciples from before the expansion did not leave since days would be the same no matter where they spent it. Later on, when the nearby sects came to antagonize us, Exen Shirshu beat them away. No one cared too much. Was there a place that did not have conflict? It was at this time when the Chaos Rifts opened and the Mo battalion came. Kunlun came and wanted the Shirshu to go to the front lines. The sect leader did not agree and said that 4th Shirgu was not strong offensively and wanted her to remain behind. Kunlun did not agree. They surrounded the sect. 4th Shirgu eventually agreed but requested for the disciples to be kept in the rear. Kunlun agreed. Luo Li's expressions suddenly became twisted. But who knew when the sect leader and others left, Kunlun's people put Jinji on us. They said it was to prevent us from betraying them. On the road, we were attacked by a troop of Mo. The people from Kunlun forced us to go to delay the Mo, otherwise, they would activate the Jinji killing us. We could only listen and go, and then the Kunlun people turned and ran, abandoning us. Some of us died and some were wounded, the rest were captured. As a slave, I passed through the hands of several people before this Kunlun. Zhuemo squeezed out the 2 words from his teeth, his eyes bloodshot. He had never thought that Kunlun would do something this low. After eldest Shixiang disappeared, sect leader was very distraught, impacted, and his hair turned white overnight. From then on, the sect leader started to talk about many things with me. Second Shixiang, Lin Qian always suspected that you were Yaoma and mentioned something about stars in daytime. The sect leader had heard some rumors and deliberately did not search and have you come back. Sect leader said, he had picked you up and brought you back. If you really are, then this was better than handing you over to Kunlun. Hearing this, Zhuemo's tears could not be suppressed anymore and flowed down his cheek. The thread of resentment that had been inside disappeared. Indescribable sorrow and regret welled up. Luo Li was sobbing. A moment later, Zhuemo stopped his sorrow. He raised his head and asked, what about the other Shidi and Shimi? I only know that Xiaogua and Li Shimi are still alive. They were also captured. Shidi, you have to rescue them. Luo Li grabbed onto Zhuemo, his gray eyes filled with begging. Zhuemo's heart hurt and he unhesitatingly nodded. He said resolutely, I will definitely rescue them. He then asked, Second Shixiang, do you know who bought them? Luo Li lowered his head and thought for a moment before saying, it is a female and she seems to be called Princess Xia. Princess Xia. Zhuemo repeated a few times, fearing he would forget. It seemed he had to go investigate who this Princess Xia was. Zhuemo secretly cast a resting spell on Luo Li, causing Luo Li to felt his eyelids become heavy and quickly slipped into sleep. Zhuemo inspected the wounds inside Luo Li's body and his expression became terrible. The channels inside Luo Li's body were shattered. It would be extremely difficult to heal such severe wounds. Kunlun. Zhuemo had never hated a sect so much before, never. Shimin Ning drank his wine and listened to the report from his subordinate. Boss, you have great foresight, guard camp really entered the Great Peace City. The subordinate was admiring in his tone. Haha, there aren't enough people in guard camp. If they had some more people, they might fight Buheng. This group is not friendly, and their origins definitely are not simple, Shimin Ning said with a slight smile. A strong dragon cannot suppress the local snake. Even if they are strong, they can only eat dust, A Qing's voice came. A Qing is right. Their origins will quickly be found. So many Mo embryos, we probably are not the only ones interested. That will be fun to see when the time comes, Shimin Ning said with a smile. Only when the water is cloudy can we take advantage to steal fish, A Qing inserted at the perfect time. Shimin Ning laughed. When guard camp entered the city, they had a standoff with Lan Tianlong. The subordinate hurriedly narrated the information he had obtained. Lan Tianlong. Shimin Ning's brow creased. Xi Ning was very familiar with Lan Tianlong and naturally knew of the other's fiery temper. Lan Tianlong had not fought? This didn't seem like Lan Tianlong's usual style. The leader of guard camp definitely had some special trait. Otherwise, it was not possible to explain Lan Tianlong's course of action. Was it strength? Or background? Xi Ning pondered. It would be exaggerated to say that there was individual strength that Lan Tianlong would be wary of. He had researched. The leader of guard camp was a youth not yet 20. Could such a young youth be more powerful than Lan Tianlong? He didn't believe it. So the only way would be background. Lan Tianlong recognized the background of this person, so he purposefully retreated. Xi Ning felt this was the most plausible. He had fought against Lan Tianlong before and knew while this person had a fiery temper, he wasn't simple-minded as people assumed. This speculation was supported by many details. For example, the strong guard camp was likely be the personal guard the young man's family had sent to protect him. Background? What was his background? At this time, another subordinate came in to report. Boss, Bu Heng has entered the city. Xi Ning came out of his thoughts and laughed. It has been very long since Great Peace City been so busy. Is there some way to heal him? Zuemo looked at Pu Yao and Wei. Pu Yao was silent, Wei did not make a sound. Zuemo instantly felt disappointed. When he agreed to rescue Xiao Gua and Li Yingfeng Shiji, he had seen the desire to die in Luo Li Shixiang's eyes. Zuemo was clear. Under these circumstances, many people would lose the will to life. Their hearts were dead. Zuemo didn't know how to persuade Luo Li. He could only use the resting spell to temporarily force the other to rest. Suddenly, Pu Yao spoke. Maybe there is a solution. However, it is almost the same as death. What solution? Zuemo was like a person drowning that grabbed the life-saving reed and hurriedly asked. Pu Yao slowly spoke. On the battlefield in the past, I had found an incomplete spell from a Xiozha. Read it and you will know. Finished speaking, he threw a ball of light at Zuemo. Zuemo took the ball. After he read it, he finally understood what Pu Yao meant, that it was not much different than death. This was a spell called Life-Death Lock that was incomplete. It was very extreme. Saying it was a spell was not accurate. In Zuemo's view, this was just a daring theory. The spell was not complex, and was actually very simple. Enter the path through death. In this speculative chapter, it assumed that a person's death was a process, like passing through layers of biscuits, one layer after the next. Only when one broke through the last layer was one truly dead. The person who wrote this assumed that while the upper layers were also death, it was only a fake death. A state of fake death could easily stimulate the instincts of a person. If one was able to slow down the speed at which they passed through these upper layers of death, and stimulate their potential so that their potential counterbalanced death. This required that the rate their potential increased surpassed the speed they passed through the layers of death, doing so they could totter on the edge of life and death, and completely express a person's complete potential. After reading this, Zuemo had to admire the person who wrote this. Such a strange idea. It looked so absurd, but the author was able to explain what it meant. This person had also spent great effort to ponder how to stimulate one's potential in the state of death to twist life and death. It was just as Pu Yao had said. This was not any different than death. The entire chapter was speculative. In the end, even the author did not believe this spell would work and stopped writing. Consequently, this spell was incomplete. Zuemo also hesitated. From every angle, life-death lock was so absurd, but the phrases in the chapter swirled in his mind. They seemed to hold a strange power. Many of the ideas gave him great inspiration. He had a faint feeling that this life-death lock was a wondrous spell. At this time, Luo Li slowly woke up. He opened his eyes. When he saw Zuemo, he forced a smile. His eyes were gray and empty, lifeless. Xiozha were powerful, but if their heart was dead, their vitality would flow away faster than normal people, because their heart was the base of all their power. When Zuemo saw Luo Li's eyes, he knew it was not good. Shixiang wants to die? Zuemo suddenly said. Luo Li was surprised, but he nodded and said honestly, I am nothing now, my channels are all broken, my dantian destroyed. Even the best Ling medicine cannot heal me. I'm satisfied now that I am able to see Shitty. I do not have any left to connect me to this world. With this broken body, I will drag down Shitty. I will also feel life is boring and painful. Rather than suffering through that, death is an easy matter. Zuoremo stared hard at Luo Li's eyes. He saw Luo Li's expression was the same from beginning to end and knew the other was resolved. Shixiang, do you not want revenge against Kunlun? Do you not want to rescue Xiaogua and Li Yingfeng Shiji? Zuoremo asked. Shidi do not. Luo Li grimaced. I have a spell here. It is dangerous, but it may be your only hope. At this time, Zuoremo could only hope for the best and took out a jade scroll, Life-Death Lock. Luo Li assumed that Zuoremo was trying to persuade him but did not bear to reject his goodwill, so he took it. After sweeping a glance, he froze. Chapter 571, Mo Skill Steals, Princess Xia. Tao Xing was slightly shocked. Why have you asked about Princess Xia? Do you know her? Zuoremo instantly became alert. No. Tao Xing shook his head and said in self-mockery. I might have some skill in Mo embryos, but in the eyes of those truly great personages, I'm just someone that raises Mo embryos. To them I'm not any different than a person who raises insects. Zuoremo was instantly disappointed, but he still hurried to give comfort. You are still very powerful. At the side, Tang Fei's expression became strange. It was the first time she had heard someone comfort another person like this. Didn't he know that City Master was just being humble? Tao Xing laughed and then warned, do not provoke Princess Xia. You were very rash today in provoking Lan Tianlong. However, Princess Xia's background is deeper than Lan Tianlong's. Look at how arrogant Lan Tianlong was at the city gates today. If Princess Xia was present, he would be docile. Who is Princess Xia? Zuoremo was confused, his face puzzled. Princess Xia comes from the ancient Anwei family and is much older than the Lan family. The Anwei family is one of the oldest families in Hundred Savage Realm. They have the most noble bloodline called the Anwei bloodline. In history, they have produced 16 martial levels. You can imagine the glory of this family. Tang Fei had a desirous expression. 16 marshals, such a powerful existence. Tao Xing could not stop himself from warning again. You have to be careful and not offend Princess Xia. The Anwei family is an enormous entity that is truly at the top of the food chain. Right now, the leader of Anwei family, Anwei Ming, is a Mo marshal. They rule over 74 Mo Jie. Hearing this, Zuoremo was also frightened. One Mo marshal ruling 74 Mo Jie. A powerful family like this was really scary. However, when he thought of Xiaogua and Li Yingfeng, Zuoremo threw all the fear to the back of his head. Where is Princess Xia now? Zuoremo asked. I do not know this. Tao Xing spread his hands. He felt more and more admiration towards Zuoremo. In his view, even though the other was too direct in his conduct, he was a very good young person. Anwei family. Zuoremo murmured. In his consciousness, Pu Yao's voice suddenly piped up. I have a solution. Zuoremo was slightly surprised and looked suspiciously at Pu Yao. What are you scheming now? Pu Yao said with a snicker. The Anwei family are old opponents. I had wanted to settle the debts from the past. I had not expected them to come to us. Murderousness brimmed in the bloody pupil. Wei also came out and said with a smile. Azua, in the past, we and Anwei family had a little conflict. Oh, you will help us, right? Zuoremo instantly felt his head swell up. Can you not fool around at a time like this? Don't you want to save Xiaogua and Li Yingfeng? Pu Yao snorted coldly. We know everything about Anwei family origins. We will help you find and save Xiaogua and Li Yingfeng. In return you will settle our debts with the Anwei family. Zuoremo turned towards Wei. Wei nodded crisply. He is speaking the truth. Pu Yao and Wei both nodded. This matter seemed reliable. Zuoremo nodded. All right. You help me, I'll help you. However, he was gaping inside. It seemed this Anwei family had seriously offended these two. More than 1,000 years had passed, but they did not forget their grudge. Just how serious had this conflict been? However, as long as he could rescue Xiaogua and Li Yingfeng, Zhuo Mo let the two do what they wanted. Oh, Lan Tianlong really did not act? Bu Heng asked coldly. This one learned this. Lan Tianlong remained peaceful. He even gave the slave to the leader of guard camp as well as a token, and he invited the other to his compound to drink. The subordinate replied in great detail. It seems that this person is not so simple, Bu Heng murmured to himself and sank into deep thought. Originally, he had planned to challenge Zhuo Mo when he entered Great Peace City and kill the other in the open to wash away the embarrassment on his clan. However, when he heard this news, he immediately realized that the situation was much more complex than he imagined. Bu Heng was strong, but he was more skilled as a battle general. His individual strength was not comparable to Lan Tianlong. Lan Tianlong had a fiery temper, but he was someone with brains. If he did not act in public, then there was something to ponder here. If it was due to individual power, then it was even more unwise for Bu Heng to challenge the other. If it was any other reason that caused Lan Tianlong's actions, then Bu Heng had to be even more careful. If the other had a background that even Lan Tianlong had to worry about, just the slightest carelessness could bring down a calamity that would destroy his clan. As a gold battle general, Bu Heng was able to see the important connections. The embarrassment was related to the morale of the soldiers, but offending those ancient families would bring extinction to his clan. Not even a scrap would remain. Familiar with history, Bu Heng knew that countless families had perished like that. Zhuo Mo walked along the street, Shu Long and the others a few steps behind him. Anwei family will have a faction established in Great Peace City. Pu Yao's tone was very certain. That old man was right just now. The Anwei family is full of talents and has produced many Mo marshals. However, Anwei family has never produced a king. Anwei family has always had ambitions, and this is the greatest thorn in their side. The desire of each generation of the Anwei family has towards acquiring Mo skills is something other families cannot compare to. They desire too much to have a breakthrough. The Mo skill steels placed in Great Peace City contain Mo arts that can touch the power of the king level. How could they pass up on that? The more Zhuo Mo heard, the more he felt that Pu Yao had a special understanding of the Anwei family. This Shi Ziming is definitely an influential person to be able to teach Mo marshals. Pu Yao, who usually had his eyes high up, expressed rare respect towards Shi Ziming. But then he smirked coldly. However, it is not so easy to understand what people like him think. Shi Ziming's Mo skill steals are real, but it is hard to say if visitors can read and understand their contents. When techniques and skills reach that level, it is very hard to describe them using language. And then, Zhuo Mo couldn't help but ask. The people of Anwei family are very smart. They cannot understand the steals, but there will eventually be someone who can. I suspect that the construction of this Great Peace City was supported by the Anwei family from the shadows. If this Great Peace City was built, the Mo skill steals were put up, many geniuses will gather and eventually someone would understand them. What is left to do is very simple. Either they pull the person into their Anwei family, giving them enough mabe and beauties. If the person doesn't obey, Pu Yao laughed coldly. Zhuo Mo's hairs stood up upon hearing this. Aren't there other people that see this? Probably. Wei continued, that Shi Ziming definitely knew this, but he sees clearer than the Anwei family. He only wants his succession to continue, and he definitely did not believe that the Anwei family would gain complete control because the other families are not stupid. Why have so many factions established themselves in Great Peace City? Because experts and geniuses will be produced here. Which family doesn't need experts and geniuses? Why were there so many Mo generals and marshals that helped out with the construction? Were they really repaying Shi Ziming out of gratefulness? No, it is because everyone saw the benefits. But this is where Shi Ziming was good. I have to admire how he used the powers. Hearing this, Wei sighed. Zhuo Mo finally understood. However, after the two exposed this, much of his admiration and reverence of Great Peace City dissipated. But he felt even more interested in Shi Ziming. We can use this to our advantage. Pu Yao snorted coldly and said, "If you go to the Mo skill steals and pretend to be intoxicated for a few days and act as though you have comprehended them, you will naturally attract the attention of all the factions, including the Anwei family. Then you can throw out the information that you do not have any background. At that time, these factions will come to recruit you. You can make a few challenges to prove your strength. The Anwei family definitely will not be able to sit still. At that time, they will give you whatever you want, not just Xiaogua and Liang Feng." "Pu, you are so cunning." Zuo sighed. He then asked, "But this does not guarantee that Princess Xia would come. What if they send someone else?" "They want," Wei came to explain. "Princess Xia of the Anwei family is not a name, but a special identity. There will only be one princess in each generation. They hold many duties such as recruiting talents. Their arrival represents the Anwei family. If you display enough skill, they will definitely come. Do not say it so pleasantly. They are just a socialite." Pu Yao inserted coldly. Zuo gaped on hearing this. "Well, that's true," Wei said and nodded. "Before each generation of princess debuts in society, the family will try to increase her reputation, making her the object of everyone's attention and surrounding her with geniuses. After a decade of storms, they will choose a powerful family and marry her off. This is a marriage alliance." Zuo listened to this as though they were matters from a different world. He didn't know what to say. "Darren, we are at the Mo skill steals." Shu Long's voice interrupted Zuo. Zuo refocused and was instantly attracted by the spectacular scene in front of him. There were rows of tall sword-like steels carved with clear characters. Even after 300 years of wind and rain, they were pristine and whole as though they were newly carved. The stone steels formed a dense forest. Every stone steel was carved with characters. These were the famous Great Peace Mo skill steels. There were many Mo studying below each Mo skill steel. Some were copying down content. The Mo that came here were at least colonel level. Brigadiers could be seen everywhere, and Zuo saw several generals. Gazing at such a spectacular steel forest, for some unknown reason, Zuo felt admiration for Shi Ziming. A person that did not have any Mo skill to cultivate dared to carve his knowledge of power onto stone steels for the world to read, examine, and judge. The stone steels that pointed up into the skies suddenly became much taller in Zuo's eyes. The mannerisms of the great ones in the past were so. Chapter 572, Confidence and Going All Out. He wanted a servant? The servant is a Xiozha? Bihan asked indifferently. "Yes, Your Highness," Fu Feng said respectfully. Lan Tianlong did not accept the challenge to fight and gave the slave to him. There wasn't any warmth in Bihan's cold eyes. The golden jinji which had been etched all over his body had been completely erased. What replaced them was a snowy white Mo matrix. On the black skin, the exquisite white Mo matrix carried an almost unusual seductive beauty. Could this person also be a Xiozha? Bihan suddenly asked. Bo Feng stilled and reflexively shook his head. Xiozha? Probably not. Lan Tianlong would have recognized that. Like me, can Lan Tianlong recognize this? Bihan shook his head. Your Highness, Fu Feng hurriedly said. Bihan said indifferently, "In the future, do not call me Your Highness." Bihan's words called Fu Feng to pale. He hurriedly said, "No. Your Highness, your identity is noble." Bihan raised a hand and stopped Fu Feng from speaking. His expression was cold. Father's properties will end up being elder brothers. I have spent so many years on the outside and have not seen father from a very young age. The clan does not like me, and that is normal. I am already satisfied that we have managed to remove the Jinji from my body. Thinking about the cold treatment that Bihan had received in this period of time, Bo Heng was sorrowful. Your Highness, no matter what identity your Highness has, in Fu Feng's heart, you are still the little Highness that was in Mistress' arms. Bihan's gaze softened slightly. A moment later, he suddenly asked, Fu Feng, you followed my mother for many years, how old am I now? Your Highness is 25 this year. Fu Feng had an expression of remembrance. If Mistress is in heaven and learned that your highness has returned home, she would definitely be happy. 25. Bi Han murmured. A dazed expression flashed by and his face became cold and indifferent again. Go tell my brother if he can erase the Jinji on Sin battalion, I will make a request to the clan to set up my own household. Your highness, no. Fu Feng paled dramatically. Setting up one's own household meant leaving the clan. One didn't just lose their place in succession, they would not receive any more help from the family. In the Mo territories, this was a very severe punishment. At this time his tears flowed. When he thought of the mistress that had passed away long ago, sorrow rose. Go! Bi Han's expression was indifferent and he did not speak further. Looking at Bi Han's cold and stubborn figure, in a flash, it merged with the beautiful figure who had passed. Fu Feng stopped his tears and said firmly, yes. The contents of the Mo skill steels were arranged based on difficulty of their contents, from shallow to deep. There were more people huddled around the steels in the outer regions, and fewer as one went deeper. Zhou Mo started to pretend to read starting from the first stone steel. How was he to act as though he was immersed? How could he appear immersed? Zhou Mo had been worried, but after his first glance, he was unconsciously attracted by the content on the Mo skills steel. The content on this stone steel was very simple and was a rough explanation, but for Zhou Mo, who had never received a systematic training in Mo skills cultivation, it filled in his insufficiencies, causing many areas that he was lacking in to instantly become clear. Zhou Mo's starting point was very high. He had cultivated the Great Day Mo physique very early on. It was enough to show that his talent was outstanding. But he was very unfamiliar with these basic cultivation practices. When he had been in Shattered Stone Town, he had benefited greatly from Uncle and Ya's teachings. But Uncle and Ya's skill was limited, and what he cultivated was very crude. But this Shi Ziming was really a great genius. There were hundreds of basic cultivation methods he described, and every basic method would have a corresponding description that was worthy of deep thought. Zhou Mo read steel by steel like he was possessed. Shu Long stood guard warily at his side. What no one had expected was that just like how Zhou Mo was enchanted, one was also enchanted. I know. Jiang's tone was calm as though he already knew this information. The shock and fury that was expected did not appear. The subordinate that was reporting was slightly surprised, but he released a breath inside. Jiang Jadaran was harmonious usually, but when he was angry, he was extremely scary. Everyone was afraid of him. Feng Yu Darren had suddenly left, taking 1,000 combat shio with her. Rationally, Jiangzhe should not tolerate this kind of conduct. These thoughts flashed through the mind of this Xiozhe before disappearing. Feng Yu Darren was beloved by them. No one wanted Feng Yu Darren to be punished because of this. After the subordinate left, Jiangzhe sighed, worry flashing through his eyes. A moment later, he suddenly raised his head and shouted, "Someone come!" A guard hurried in. "Darren! Have Gao Xian come see me." Jiangzhe's expression was calm. A tall, well-built battle general quickly came in and bowed. "Darren! Take 500 people from the Jiangzi battalion and go support Feng Yu." Gao Xian was slightly surprised at Jiangzhe's order. His expression was filled with surprise. Everyone knew that Feng Yu Darren had secretly taken the battalion to take revenge for Ding Zhenshushu. Originally, everyone thought that Feng Yu Darren would not be able to escape punishment this time. Darren looked easygoing usually, but his adherence to military law was strict and no one dared to break them. It seemed that Darren also wanted revenge for Ding Zhenshushu. Gao Xian couldn't help but feel excited. He was not eye-catching in the temple and his strength was average, but Ding Zhenshushu had also once taught him. However, he was not as brave as Feng Yu and did not dare disobey orders. "Yes," Gao Xian said loudly. "I'm not worried with Feng Yu's skill level." Jiangzhe's expression was stern. "But her personality is rushed and she likes to be risky. You are much steadier and you can make up for what she lacks." Jiangzhe looked at Gao Xian and said, "You do not have much time. You need to quickly fight and resolve it. The battle for Cold Mountain Jie is not finished. I speculate that after some more time, the MO will mount a counterattack. It is best for you to come back before then. How long? Gao Xian said cautiously. Do not go take more than 2 months. Jiangzhi said decisively. Gao Xian said in a deep voice, his expression filled with confidence. The battalion under Jiangzhi's command had followed Jiangzhi for many years. Jiangzhi had almost gathered all of them from all the major sections. There was one Jindan among every 20 people. The Jiangzi battalion was one of the core battalions of Xian Kong Temple. The Battle of Cold Mountain Jie had turned this battalion, that Jiangzhi had spent so long creating, into an even sharper blade. Due to this battle, Jiangzi battalion had become famous, and became one of the top 4 battalions in the 4 realms. Just these 500 Jiangzi battalion soldiers were enough to give Gao Xian the confidence he could take over a Jie. Also, the 1,000-person battalion that Feng Yushiji had taken were not decorative. Their selection was not as stringent as the Jiangzi battalion, but they had also gone through many tests. Each of them were accomplished disciples from the outer sections. In any Jie, they were able to become elite. It was just that they were from Xian Kong Temple and the competition was so fierce that they did qualify for the Jiangzi battalion. A Cloud Sea Jie that was an unknown force, how strong could it be? Even a person as steady as Gao Xian did not think the other could make any waves. If they were careful and did not fall into traps, the other wouldn't have a chance. Jiangzhi finally got a matter off his mind and smiled slightly. Go, do not waste time. Gao Xian saluted Jiangzhi and turned to leave. A 500-person battalion quickly left without a sound. Lil Miss had been very busy. Golden Crow Camp's study of the MO matrices had been outstanding, especially on those MO with good bloodlines. Their power would frequently increase by a whole level. Little Savage Jie was a small and remote Jie, but it still had many kernel-level MO. Most of them had some special bloodline. It was not pure, but this wasn't a problem for Golden Crow Camp. Shi Dong's reputation in Little Savage Jie was not bad, and the benefits he provided was very good. Adding on that the legend about the king quickly spread in Little Savage Jie. It attracted many MO with potential. These MO with potential were quickly delivered to Golden Crow Camp at Turtle Island for MO matrices to be engraved. In this short time, there were 60 Brigadier level M. The insanity of Golden Crow Camp infected Lil Mississippi. With unprecedented speed, he started to think of how he could use the strength of these MO to their greatest potential. In the end, he decided to merge these Brigadier MO into Vermilion Bird Camp. MO battalions were not difficult for him. In reality, he was much more familiar with the soldier types and battalions of Yaoma than the types of Xiuzhi soldiers and their battalions. He decided to plan out new tactics. The addition of these Brigadier MO caused Vermilion Bird Camp to grow more versatile and even stronger. They had the power to finish even more complex and difficult tactics. Lil Miss could not swallow the result of his battle against Ajaga. He was clear if they wanted to help Zhuo Shixiang, they had to become stronger. These Brigadier MO were extremely resistant to Vermilion Bird Camp and disdained them, but after Wei Ran led a single troop that was comprised of half Jindan and half Ningmai to defeat a battalion composed entirely of Brigadier MO, these Brigadier MO were won over. MO emphasized strength the most. The right of speech depended on their strength. If they submitted, they never played tricks. Also, they were not stupid. Even though it was hard for them to accept living together with Xiuzhi, as the power of Turtle Island was gradually exposed to them, and Turtle Island treated MO the same as others, they gradually threw away their opinions. Most importantly, all the MO believed this was the estate that their king had conquered. Our king, that was a true MO. The MO that gradually acclimatized to Turtle Island displayed very good control, their persistence and endurance. The Sword Xiu of Vermilion Bird Camp felt admiration. The Sword Xiu of Vermilion Bird Camp were also unwilling. All of them were working as hard as they could. Under this kind of atmosphere, a brand new Vermilion Bird Camp with brand new tactics gradually formed. Chapter 573, Pengchen, Darren, everything has been arranged. The subordinate reported to Bu Heng. Bu Heng asked, "Who did you find?" Pang Chen, general level. He stepped into general level 7 years ago and has a wealth of battle experience. His most famous battle was against Qi Diaoyu. He lost after 30 moves. Even though he was defeated, it was a glorious battle, and his reputation rose as a result. Qi Diaoyu. Bu Heng's expression shifted. He really is strong to have fought Qi Diaoyu to 30 moves. Thus, after Pan Cheng lost to Qi Diaoyu, he came to the Great Peace Mo skill steals in search of a breakthrough. He has stayed in Great Peace City for more than 3 years, and has had more than 20 major and minor challenges. His strength has improved over this time. Not bad, not bad. Bu Heng had a satisfied expression. A general level that was strong like this could accomplish his goal of probing the unknown youth's abilities. Where is that person from guard camp? Bu Heng then asked. He's at the Mo skill steals. The subordinate instantly responded. Pang Chen has already gone ahead. Bu Heng had an expression of anticipation. Have you sent someone to observe? It has been arranged. Zhou Mo was deeply concentrated in reading. The content on the stone steels were the most basic of fundamentals, and there were few, if any, Mo that would read all of it. They would learn these fundamental concepts from a very young age and were extremely familiar with them. But Zhou Mo read all the paragraphs without skipping any, one stone steel after another. He did not feel that any of these topics were troublesome. The words that Shi Ziming used were simple and easy to understand. The more Zhou Mo read, the clearer his mind was. It was like there had been a painting in his mind shrouded in mist that was now slowly becoming clearer. Many places that he had thought were blank were being added. This painting was becoming more complete. This was not a strong feeling of pleasure, but it still deeply enticed Zhou Mo. That happy feeling of the blanks being filled meant that he was progressing and could not stop his steps. It was like he was possessed. In the sea of consciousness, Pu Yao and Wei were also sighing in surprise. This Shi Ziming is a very powerful person. A rare expression of shock appeared on Pu Yao's face. Wei understood more about Mo cultivation than Pu Yao. Much of the content here, especially some of Shi Ziming's explanations, seemed to hold a special power that enchanted people and caused them to sigh in wonderment. Is this guy really comprehending all of this? Pu Yao was slightly depressed. Zhou Mo's talent in Mo cultivation was scary. It was like if a spark was given to him, he could immediately create a sea of flames. In comparison, Zhou Mo's talent at cultivating the Yao arts was not bad, but comparing the two, they were not on the same level. No wonder Pu Yao was slightly depressed. Wei suddenly turned his face and said, surprised, Wen's talent isn't bad. Pu Yao snorted coldly, only he has a spark of talent in all of guard camp. The rest are just all poor people. Wen's talent was the brightest among guard camp. His comprehension ability was wondrous, and even Shu Long was lacking in comparison. However, Shu Long's methodical and persistent personality was something people would have to consider when comparing the two. The Mo skill steals were in front of him, but Shu Long did not even read one character. He had kept a constant guard by watching the surroundings, and followed closely behind Zhou Mo. There's nothing wrong with being poor. Wei's mood was clearly very good. Guard camp had a good seed in Wen with his wondrous comprehension and had a reliable leader in Shu Long. Wei was naturally in a good mood. At this time, a light flashed across Shu Long's eyes. A figure was walking directly towards them. Shu Long's expression changed slightly as he stared closely at the other. His body unconsciously shifted to a defensive posture. The other's steps seemed to have a certain mysterious rhythm. Each step seemed to fall on a strange beat. In this moment, Shu Long felt everything else in his view seemed to retreat like the tide. The only thing left in his vision was this male that was walking closer. Suddenly, a hand was placed on his shoulder. Shu Long's body shook slightly and the parts of his view that had disappeared suddenly recovered. The strange power of the man that was coming towards them disappeared. Shu Long's mind suddenly relaxed. Darren! Shu Long was full of shame. It's fine. Zhou Mo patted Shu Long's shoulder and said in a low voice, Protect Wen, do not let anyone disturb him. Yes. Shu Long bit down on his lips and felt even more ashamed. They encountered an enemy but they needed Darren to defend them. Shu Long, oh Shu Long, was there anything more shameful than this? He swore inside that he had to work harder and cultivate. Zhuemo walked in front of Shu Long, his eyes flashing with a cold light. Truthfully, it was not a pleasing matter to be interrupted when he was reading in pleasure. The other was clearly targeting him and held enmity. It seems that even if you do not find people to challenge, someone has come to find you. Pu Yao's tone was that of a spectator. The other stopped in his walk about 3 zhang away from Zhuemo and said politely, "This one is Pang Chen, greetings to brother." Pang Chen was in his 30s and his body had an extremely well-balanced build. The muscles exposed was not in bulky, but were well-toned. Each muscle seemed to wrapped around him like coils of wire. People would not doubt the astounding power contained within. Zhuemo looked coldly at the other. They had just arrived in Great Peace City and didn't know anyone in the city. This middle-aged man called Pang Chen had directly approached them and disrupted their comprehension. He clearly did not have any good intentions. Fortunately, Zhuemo was only immersed in reading and was not having an epiphany like a Wen. The state of epiphany was something of luck. If it was disrupted, no one knew when it would be the next time it occurred. No matter if it was Xiuzhe or Yaoma, this kind of interruption was something that was almost forbidden. "Say what you want," Zhuemo said coldly. Since the other clearly did not have good intentions, Zhuemo had no intentions on wasting effort being polite. Also, in Pu Yao's plan, he had to challenge some people to increase his fame. Since someone had come to him, that was good. Zhuemo started to push up his sleeves. Pang Chen was slightly shocked. It was the first time he had seen someone like Zhuemo. He suddenly found it was interesting. Did the other not know this was Great Peace City? In Great Peace City, someone that conducted themselves with this kind of attitude would not survive for long. This really was an arrogant greenhorn. He should finish this quickly. Pang Chen thought and did not waste words. "This one wants to spar with Sir." "Spar? You are challenging me?" Zhuemo raised an eyebrow. The MO in the surroundings instantly started to discuss. Pang Chen had been in Great Peace City for more than 3 years. Anyone who had spent some time in Great Peace City knew of him. People also quickly recognized that Zhuemo was the person that had challenged Lan Tianlong at the city gates. The crowd instantly became excited. What people enjoyed the most in Great Peace City were the challenges. In this place, it was very easy to become famous, they just had to challenge others. Of course, there were unspoken rules about challenges. For example, if an unknown MO challenged a MO that was well established, the other could completely dismiss the challenge. Otherwise, those experts would not have time to do anything else. In the words of Great Peace City, those that just arrived in Great Peace City were nobodies. If new people wanted to become famous, there were battle stadiums where they could gain a little fame. Those that won in the battle stadiums would have the chance to challenge the famous warriors. For example, no one laughed at Lan Tianlong for refusing to fight Zhuemo when Zhuemo directly challenged him. They would feel that Zhuemo was a new person who didn't know anything. Lan Tianlong's actions had people admiring his composure and mannerisms. But Pang Chen? Pang Chen was definitely someone of renowned skill in Great Peace City. He was able to withstand 30 moves from Qi Diaoyu. This kind of strength was enough to stun others. And in these years in Great Peace City, he had never lost a challenge. People admired and respected him. If it wasn't that Pang Chen did not have any intentions of being recruited into a faction, many families would have sent him invitations already. But a famous warrior who had been famous for so long challenged a newcomer. It was not common to see something like this in Great Peace City. Pang Chen felt slightly discontent at Zhuemo's gaze. He had been famous for a long time. When had a junior ever looked at him with a gaze like that? He smiled coldly and exposed his white teeth. Exactly. The crowd instantly became excited. Even the stupidest person could see that something else was causing this challenge, but no one cared. They were excited that they could see Pang Chen fight. A famous warrior. How long had it been since a famous warrior had fought? The news that Pang Chen challenged Zhuemo quickly spread throughout Great Peace City. Due to the sky-splitting calamity, war rose in all areas, and everyone's attentions turned to the state of the world. Great Peace City had been calm for a long time. Those families instantly smelled the unusualness of this challenge. Their intelligence gathering was faster and more accurate than the average person. The intelligence about guard camp, their conflict with the green yiksha, was quickly delivered to their desks. The name guard camp started to enter their eyes starting from this moment. Connecting this to Bu Heng entering Great Peace City recently, they instantly knew who was behind this. However, the great majority of them just smiled. They felt that Bu Heng was too cautious. He had definitely paid a significant price to have Pang Chen act. Using Pang Chen to deal with a newcomer, wasn't that bullying? Many people felt that Bu Heng's reputation was overstated and they were even too lazy to go spectate. Lan Tianlong was one exception. When he heard his subordinate report the news, light flashed out of his eyes. He recalled that indiscernible feeling of danger that day. A deep, meaningful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Famous warrior, Pang Chen. Lan Tianlong unhesitatingly stood and sprinted outside. Go! Let's go watch. When he flew onto the street, he saw the people moving like the tide. A famed warrior was fighting. It caused Great Peace City, which had been peaceful for too long, to finally get busy. Hearing the people below excitedly discussing Pang Chen's ultimate skills, his famous fights, and the rumors about him, Lan Tianlong suddenly felt great anticipation for this fight. Chapter 574, Domineering Great Peace City, Challenge Stadium. The flood of people flowed in and quickly filled up the majority of stands. There had been people fighting inside, but when they heard a famous warrior, Pang Chen, was challenging someone, they instantly cleared the challenge stadium arena. Zhuo Mo's original plan was to beat this dislikable person until he was on the ground picking up his teeth, but no one was allowed to fight near the Mo skill steals. Zhuo Mo was also worried about interrupting Awen during his epiphany and agreed to go to the challenge stadium. When he watched as the stands filled up, Zhuo Mo recalled attending the sword test conference back at Wukong Mountain. This scene was very similar to back then. That was the only combat competition he had ever attended. All the fights since then were battles of life and death. They were harsh and cruel, and people would do anything for survival. He really missed that. He thought of how he had used formations to defeat his opponents and was scolded by the Shirshu for embarrassing the sword sect. Thought of the adorable Xiaogua, thought of Li Yingfeng Shiji. Right back then, he had relied on Li Yingfeng Shiji. Unconsciously, Zhuo Mo's thoughts led him away. Those were hard but very happy days. Those warm scenes of being scolded were like rays of sunlight passing through the wooded canopy and warming the ground. They carried warmth and a slight breeze that filled his heart. An indescribable longing and sorrow spread in his heart. Zhuo Mo lowered his head. In his vision, the ground was distant and blurry. The noise of his surroundings seemed far from him. There was only the sound of his heartbeat and his breathing. The world was silent. There was only his heart's murmurs. Sect leader, Shirshu, I will definitely rescue Xiaogua and Li Shiji. There was no gritting of the teeth, no steely determination. He was so calm there was barely a rise and fall to his breathing as he said these words, as though he was just carrying out a normal matter. There was no burning spirit, no cursing or swearing. This was what how Zhuo Mo had said this to himself. In silence, Zhuo Mo raised his right hand and started to unwrap the bandages wrapped around his hand. He did not raise his head to glance at Pang Chen standing on the other side. A discussion started on the surrounding stands. Who is this person? He is so arrogant? Is he a newcomer? He dares to posture in front of Pang Chen. He really is seeking death. In any case, it's his death. It's good for him to show off before he dies. So strange, Pang Chen is challenging a newcomer? Just how bored is this person? What is even more ridiculous is that this newcomer agreed. I cannot understand it. What if Pang Chen is defeated? Ridiculous. Please, Pang Chen is a famous warrior. Do you think the name of a famous warrior is worth so little? These newcomers now really do not have good judgment. So young and he will lose his life. But Pang Chen's victory will not be a good one. He is lowering himself. The stands were not filled. Even though they could see a famous warrior fight, Pang Chen's opponent was undoubtedly too weak in the eyes of the public. These people had just come to see Pang Chen fight. As to winning and losing, there wasn't anything to look at. Pang Chen, if you cannot defeat this person within 10 moves, don't try courting me anymore. A young female suddenly raised her voice from the stands and shouted into the battlefield. This young female had an outstanding appearance with her bright eyes and her pouting lips that made her seem even more adorable. The stands instantly exploded. Wow, wow, wow. That is Miss Hua Ning. Now there is something to see now. I heard long ago that Pang Chen was pursuing Miss Hua Ning. It seems that the rumor is true. Now there is something to see. 10 moves. Miss Hua Ning is really vicious. Pang Chen roared in laughter. Since little Hua Ning has said it, Pang Chen does not dare to disobey. 10 moves it is. This shout was full of bravado and said without any hesitation. The mannerisms and confidence of an expert was displayed. Many MO females showed admiration on the stands. Even though Miss Hua Ning was present, they still shouted and cheered for Pang Chen. The discussion increased in volume as everyone's interests were stirred up. Compared to the victory that was undoubted, this promise of victory in 10 moves was something more entertaining to see. Everyone started to speculate how many moves Pang Chen would need to win. Many people even started placing bets. Hua Ning was very satisfied with Pang Chen's response, her face excited. The guard beside her also looked with a smile at the stage. Receiving motivation from a beauty, Pang Chen's morale rose. Right now, his mind was filled with thoughts of how to win more beautifully. The beauty Hua Ning was here. If he did not win beautifully, then he would waste this rare chance to win her favor. However, when his gaze landed on Zhuo Mo, his face suddenly darkened. The other's head was lowered as he attended to unraveling his bandage. From beginning to end, the person did not look at him. Anger flickered through Pang Chen's eyes. He had had dozens of battles in Great Peace City before and no opponent dared to dismiss him like this. He did not take the opportunity to make a sneak attack. He had enough confidence in his own strength. Originally, he had only accepted money to do this, yet the underestimation that Zhuo Mo showed completely infuriated him. He, Pang Chen, was being dismissed by a newcomer. A feeling that he was being embarrassed rose. Pang Chen took a deep breath, his murderousness rising. If he could not kill this person, how could he leave an impression on Hua Ning? The long bandage was unraveled, and the MO matrix on Zhuo Mo's right hand slowly was exposed to the eyes of the public. The bright blue light flowed along the MO matrix with a dream glow. Pang Chen's pupils suddenly shrank. At this time, Zhuo Mo raised his head. The scenes from Wukong Sword Sect and the Sword Test Conference retreated like the tide and his vision became clear again. His expression was cool, but that pair of eyes held an unusual determination and resolve, among the faint feeling of sorrow and longing. The other had come to him, then he would start his plan with this battle. Zhuo Mo's gaze suddenly became hardened. His aura felt like an invisible shroud had been taken off. A shocking presence was like a freed wild beast that shot off his body without any more disguise. Boom! The sudden exploding presence was like a tidal wave that spread out in all directions. The noisy stands suddenly choked on their shouts as though an invisible hand had gripped their throats. General level. He was general level. Pang Chen's eyes widened, shock and disbelief flashing across his face. He had known that Zhuo Mo was general level, from Green Yiksha's intelligence report. He had not paid close attention to this detail. Those that dared to make challenges in Great Peace City were all general levels. He had defeated several general levels. In a place like Great Peace City that was filled with experts, general level wasn't anything special. Only now, when Zhuo Mo released his enormous presence without any restraint, did he recognize that the situation was not good. In the stand, Hua Ning's eyes widened as she looked dazedly at the field. The expressions of the guards around her turned serious. Such a powerful presence. Let's start. Among the deathly silence, Zhuo Mo's cool voice was like the bell announcing death's arrival, and entered everyone's ears. Before the sound spread, with a lift of his leg, Zhuo Mo seemed to appear in front of Pang Chen, leaving behind afterimages. The serene blue MO matrix drew a twisting ripple-like streak of light. The tight fist twisted the air, and carried great presence as it punched straight at Pang Chen's face. So fast. An extreme feeling of danger. Pang Chen's hairs stood on end. Under such an emergency, Pang Chen did not dare to hold anything back. With a bellow, his muscles tensed like a chain that suddenly pulled tight. A brown-colored MO matrix suddenly appeared, twisting Python MO physique. His arms seemed to snap and then shake as though they did not have bones. A brown light left his hand and shot at Zhuomo's fist. At the same time, a shadow that was hard to notice with the naked eye shot straight at Zhuomo's lower body like snake hidden in the shadows. In this opening attack, Pang Chen unhesitatingly used his strongest attacks. The serene blue MO matrix carried mind-shaking light as it hit the brown light in a contest of strength. Pang Chen's expression suddenly changed. He abandoned the attack and quickly retreated. Bam! The thunderous sound of an explosion sounded as though something had broken through something soft. The brown light exploded into a spray of brown mist. A serene blue fist continued charging out of the brown mist of light and chased Pang Chen. Pang Chen's soul almost left his body. That snapping attack had a name called the Python Twist Flick. It used softness to dissipate force and had never failed. Today, it wasn't even able to stop the other for a moment. This meant that the power of the other's punch far surpassed the tolerance of the Python Twist Flick. Pew! At the same time, a gold light flashed on the other's left fist as he blocked the sneak attack. Snake Tongue Arrow. Even the sharp snake tongue arrow was not able to affect the other at all. What MO skill was this? How could it have such terrifying power? What Zhue MO used wasn't a MO skill at all, but the Sky Wave Fist scripture that he had given up a long time ago. For the present Zhue MO, this fist scripture was too low level to display his full power. However, he had just learned some basic techniques from the MO skill steals. When they flashed through Zhuomo's mind, he unconsciously adjusted the fist scripture. The path that the Diana Xiu took was, at the core, not very different than MO skills. Zhue MO had the 10 Crow Celestial Apparatus MO physique that was third-ranked in general level. Even though he could not express the full power, but the strength of his physical body was not lacking compared to any general-level MO physique. Especially his right hand that was engraved with the 10,000-layer iron Kaur MO matrix. That was extremely hard and the power of this fist scripture could be completely released. When Zhue MO attacked he used Sky Wave Fist scripture, S most powerful killing move, Sky Glass Wave. This was the only move that Zhue MO thought was acceptable out of the entire Sky Glass Fist scripture. However, unlike before when the fist energy would leave his hand, Zhue MO used his strong control to keep the continuously multiplying power inside his right fist to form such a domineering punch. Even Zhue MO was surprised at the power of this punch. But his mind did not relax. His right leg that landed on the ground pushed off again. The words on the MO skill still flowed like water across his mind. The sinews, bones, blood and flesh in his body automatically adjusted as though they were alive. His movements became even more balanced and coordinated, his power even more condensed, and his speed even faster. Zhuomo's body imperceptibly shook and the air around him suddenly exploded. Pia! The light sound rang out over the entire field. An intangible ripple spread. Zhue MO felt his entire body light up as though all the restraints tying him down had been broken. Lan Tianlong suddenly stood up from where he was on the stands, his face stunned. He looked hard at the ghostly figure on the field. That was Sonic Boom. Chapter 575, Kill Sonic Boom. It referred to the explosion that occurred when the body broke free of the restraints of air. Technically, this technique was not difficult and even someone in brigadier level could comprehend it, but in reality there were very few MO that comprehended this technique. This was because sonic booms required a solid foundation in the fundamentals and basic techniques. One had to be very balanced and outstanding at controlling every part of their body. Yet for these people that started cultivating when they were children, there were rarely any that would cultivate the basic MO skills one by one. Every MO skill had their focus and being balanced meant that no one trait was outstanding. For MO that were highly competitive and lived in cruel environments, Not many would choose this. The MO that could achieve sonic booms may not be very strong, but they were well-rounded and good at controlling their body. The benefits of the sonic boom could be seen. Breaking free of the restraint of air meant that one's movements could become faster and more nimble. The momentum behind their attacks could be stronger. The MO that could achieve sonic booms had the outstanding ability to balance their body and would have each action under their complete control. For example, Zwa MO at this time. His back was slightly arched like a cat about to pounce. His right hand that was drawn back at the side of his body and flashed with a serene blue light. His punch drew out a heart-shaking stream of light. His movements were clearly lightning fast, but every action was clear and crisp, perfectly coordinated. It carried a beauty that was pleasing to the eye. Pang Chen definitely did not feel any sense of this beauty. A thin layer of sweat had unconsciously appeared on his forehead. After blocking just one attack and retreating one step, he felt as though he had fought for a long time and was extremely exhausted. His resilient mind that he was proud of started showing signs of instability. All of this was because of the other's strong pressure. A suffocating pressure that could crumble mountains. It was just one punch. There was a gigantic battle arena, but for some reason, he felt as though he was trapped with nowhere to escape. At the sonic boom just now, his expression changed. It was not the first time he had seen a sonic boom, but now. His gaze stared hard at the serene blue light that flowed and flashed in the air. His body uncontrollably shivered, all the blood inside seemed to freeze, every muscle seemed to disobey. The other's murderousness seemed to wrap around him. No matter where he tried to flee, he would not be able to escape the other. Time seemed to slow in his eyes. That mind-blowing serene blue light seemed to slow down. He seemed to already see the result. He would not be able to dodge it. He would be destroyed. Blood rose in Pang Chen's eyes. He was like a wild beast trapped in a cage and furiously fought back. He was a famous warrior who had fought through numerous battles. Fighting free of the terror, his fighting spirit exploded. Dead? Then he will also die. Pang Chen's expression was twisted. He glared angrily and ignored the streak of flowing light that was heading towards him. He charged forward rather than retreat, leaping directly at Zwa. The brown MO matrix was like the scales of a python, layer upon layer that covered Pang Chen's body. They seemed to come alive and wandered all over Pang Chen's body. His body became as flexible as a snake, each muscle like a cord made from numerous thin chains woven together. Using his left foot as the pivot, his body twisted strangely. Every piece of muscle tensed and suddenly contracted like a slender iron chain. Shocking power exploded the moment the muscles tensed. The power was passed on in waves to his right fist. The brown light seemed to be tangible as it shrouded his right fist. It seemed to be the head of a python, howling and shrieking as it swept the entire field like a gale wind. Twisting python pounce. Lan Tianlong's eyes lit up on the stands. His hands dug into the stone handrails, but he did not feel it. Pang Chen's twisting python pounce was much stronger than in the past. All the power in his body gathered in Pang Chen's right fist in this instant. This strange technique of gathering power was extremely powerful in its momentum. Even among Great Peace City that was filled with experts, it was an unique attack. Just as Lan Tianlong was shocked, a change happened. The brown ball of light that shrouding Pang Chen's right fist began to crumble from the top like a mold of dirt. The layer outside started to fall off. A lifelike brown python head appeared. The cold pupils, the triangle-shaped head, the tongue that flickered about. It was still a brown light, but it gave people a feeling of being alive. The eyes of the brown python narrowed slightly. Its great mouth opened and its sharp teeth shot out. Crack! Lan Tianlong's hand tensed and he ripped a large piece of stone off the handrails. Lan Tianlong's eyes did not move away. He felt his blood boil when he saw Zwamo's punch, and he hadn't expected for Pang Chen to have a breakthrough while standing at the gate of life and death. Seeing this, he wanted to get on the field as well. Pang Chen was overjoyed. He hadn't thought he would have a breakthrough at such a crucial moment. A power he never felt before swelled up and filled every muscle in his body. He had never felt so powerful before. He had confidence that anything, no matter what, would turn to dust in front of his punch. Even if it was a mountain. Go die! The howl of the brown snake was like a furious wave that covered all sound in the battle stadium. Suddenly he saw a pair of eyes, a pair of clear and determined eyes. He stilled slightly. The serene blue light rippled as it suddenly jumped into his field of view. This was... The other did not dodge, did not hesitate or pause. It was as though the other did not see anything. That fist that was covered in the serene blue MO matrix collided with the python. Ha! Idiot! Pang Chen wanted to laugh out loud. He had not imagined the other to be so confident to such a level. Even seeing that he had had a breakthrough, the other still tried to overpower him. Such an idiot! Did he not know that the twisting python pounce, after his breakthrough, was 10 times as powerful as before? 10 times? Such intoxicating power. Come, have a taste of 10 times the power. Pang Chen's smile suddenly became vicious. Yet his smile suddenly froze on his face. The scene in front of him seemed to play out in slow motion, delayed and crystal clear. He watched as the brown snake started to crumble from the teeth and then turned to dust. Was it like this? He did not have the time to think before the python turned to a ball of powder and dissipated. The sharp howl abruptly stopped. 10 times. The blue light filled every corner of his vision. Zuaremo did not take a second look at the pile of blood and flesh. He panted. The punch just now had used up almost all the power in his body. He took a few deep breaths and he recovered some strength. He raised his right fist. The serene blue MO matrix on his hand had diminished in intensity. Zuaremo was savoring the feeling of that punch just now. If it was just pure physical power, the attack definitely would not be so destructive. The moment he came into contact with the other's fist, a thread of Shen power inside the right fist suddenly came out. This was what caused such a terrifying sky glass wave. Shen power? Zuaremo was contemplating this occurrence. Zuaremo quickly recovered. The stands were completely silent. Everyone was gaping, their faces pale and had terrified expressions. Among this death-like silence, Zuaremo walked back to his starting position, back straight, picking up his bandage, and started to rewrap his hand. His movements were slow and his expression serious as though no one else was around. There was no joy from his victory. Even though he had gained understanding on many things from this fight, even though he had successfully completed a step in Puyao's plan, but if none of this had ever happened, if he was still on Wukong Mountain, then how good would that be? This absurd thought flashed in his mind and then disappeared just like the warm memory fragments. He grimaced inside. His eyes became clear again, and determination set in. "Hey, what are you called?" On the stands, Hua Ning suddenly shouted loudly. The guards around her instantly became nervous. From Zuamo's display just now, they knew he was a very dangerous person. Zuamo was slightly surprised. Just now, he had heard what Hua Ning had said to Pang Chen. This woman was really heartless. He couldn't help but glance at Pang Chen on the ground in sympathy. He did not stop to respond and continued to walk back outside. "Mayague is so much better." Shu Long had an expression of relief and hurried over. He had been very nervous just now. Hey, I asked you a question." Hua Ning still chased after him. Zuaremo was too lazy to pay attention to a girl with such a bad heart. He left. You. Hua Ning had not expected that someone would ignore her. She instantly burst into tears and her guards hurried to comfort her. In the stands, Lan Tianlong did not call out to Zuamo. However, his eyes flashed. His intuition that day had not been wrong. Only when Zuamo's figure disappeared from the battle stadium did the deathly silent stands lose all restraint and explode. The roaring crowd made it so that people could not even hear what the person next to them said. Everyone's expressions turned from an ashen white to an excited red. The fight just now was brief, but it was mind-blowing and unexpected. Everyone was immersed in the fight just now. That unparalleled and domineering punch. The promise of 10 moves that Pang Chen had declared, his breakthrough at the cusp of life and death. The famous warrior Pang Chen had been killed in 2 moves and his opponent was an unknown newcomer. This fight would shake the entire city. Feng Yu hurried with her army. She had disobeyed military orders and had secretly taken an army troop with her, but she knew what was most important. She had followed Jiangzhe for a long time and her judgment was not bad. She knew that this period of time was the prelude to a large battle. After a brief respite, the counterattack from the MO would come. She had to take revenge for Dingjin Shirshu before the MO retaliated. So while traveling, she did not rest for one moment. She desired to reach Cloud Sea Jie at the fastest possible speed. After they crossed this Jie River, they would be in Cloud Sea Jie. Everyone is tired. There is just a bit of road left. Everyone put one last effort in. We will rest when we get to Cloud Sea Jie. Feng Yu motivated the group. The subordinates could not disguise their exhaustion, but they nodded. Feng Yu held great weight among them and they were well trained. It was difficult to travel fast like this, but there was still a distance until it reached their limits. Let's cross the river. Feng Yu gritted out. Dingjin Shirshu, I will definitely get revenge for you. Chapter 576 Enemy Invasion. The death of Pangchen shook all of Great Peace City. This was the first famous warrior death in the last half-year. The chaos rifts caused the fighting between the three factions to quickly intensify. People's attentions naturally were on the increasingly complex state of the world. Many experts had returned to their clans to participate in the war. Great Peace City had been silent for a long time as a result, but as the state of some places stabilized, experts, like Lan Tianlong, came back. Great Peace City recovered its usual atmosphere. Pangchen had died. The opponent was a newcomer. 2 punches. The MO who had watched the fight in person tried their best to describe the dominance and terrifying nature of the 2 punches. The promise of 10 moves by Pangchen to Miss Huaning became the biggest joke of the challenge. The mirage of this challenge was a hot seller. The enthusiasm of the Great Peace citizen erupted. How many years had it been since a newcomer beat a famous warrior? As the rules were perfected, challenges that crossed levels in status like this were rarer to see. No one was concerned about why Pangchen had challenged Zuemo. They only knew that Pangchen had died on the hands of a newcomer. They quickly found that even now, they did not know what this newcomer was called. So people started to investigate. The name of Butcher Guard camp that killed 3,000 bandits with 100 people, rescued Tao Xing's group on their way, used one attack to defeat the King Yiksha, and caused hundreds of green Yiksha to flee. He became even more mysterious. Now, many factions paid attention to this newcomer that had come out of nowhere. Great Peace City seemed to come alive. What? Pangchen is dead? Bu Heng's wine cup crumbled to dust in his hands. Yes. The subordinate hurriedly played a mirage. Bu Heng stared motionlessly at the mirage as though he was paralyzed. The mirage perfectly captured the entire process. Without any effort, Bu Heng could catch every detail. Even outside the mirage, Bu Heng felt his mind shudder at the other's domineering punch. We underestimated him, Bu Hen suddenly said. He straightened his back, and his expression became peaceful again. He had seen the mirage of Pangchen and Qi Diaoyu's fight. Qi Diaoyu had not used all of his power, but Pangchen was definitely one of the top fighters in order to withstand 30 of Qi Diaoyu's moves. Also, Pangchen had improved over the years, and even had a breakthrough at the end, but he was still killed by that one punch. Just who was this person? The others seemed to have come out of nowhere. Even now, they had not identified the other's origins. This caused Bu Heng to feel anxious. Bu Heng was not worried about individual strength. From his angle, while that punch was domineering and mind-shaking, if the other did not have a strong background, he still had many ways of eliminating the other. This was Great Peace City. This place never lacked for experts. Ajagu, I heard you lost a while ago? A large man laughed, his tone teasing. Ajagu was not angry and said with a smile, I encountered a very powerful Xiozha battle general. He isn't just strong. His battalion is clearly much weaker than mine, but he was able to fight me to stand still. If our battalions were the same strength, I probably would not be able to win. So powerful? The large man was surprised. Ajagu, you are one of the 3 great battle generals of our stellar Rahula clan. Even you are not a match? Ajagu grimaced and spread his hands. I'm really not a match. The large man's surprise increased. He knew that Ajagu would not joke about a matter like this. After a moment of thought, he said, How do you think Baishan compares to him? Baishan was the head of the 3 stellar Rahula clan battle generals, and he had never lost in his life. Not as good. Ajagu shook his head. The large man's expression became serious. Is he a disciple from the Big Four? Xian Kong Temple has produced that Jiangzhe who recently took over Cold Mountain Jia. Many people are rallying together now in preparation to take back Cold Mountain Jia. He is not a disciple from the 4 sects. I asked him, they are from Cloud Sea Jia. I detected from his tone that they do not like the Big Four very much. Ajagu was an attentive person despite his easygoing nature. The reason that they attacked Middle Granary Jia seems to be for the Chaos Rift to this side. Do they want to invade the Mo territories? The large man's expression changed slightly. Who could not be on their guard when there was a powerful opponent next to them? They don't seem like it. Ajagu thought and the end said, From the discussion I had with them, they are not the same as the Big Four, and they do not seem to be hostile to Mo. Also, there are not many of them. They would need to take a long time to stabilize Middle Granary Jia. They seem to want the Chaos Rift for a certain goal. What do you plan to do? The large man's expression eased. Become allies. Ajagu said crisply. It would be terrifying to have such a strong battle general as an enemy. It is much better to become friends. It will be worth it even if I have to pay a price. And, if he is as strong as you say, this is right, the large man nodded and said. How is the progress on Baishan and the others' end? Ajagu asked. Not very smooth. The large man shook his head, his expression worried. They encountered trouble. Gongya Xiaorong's reputation is not as famous as Jiangzhe, but he is just lacking a major victory. Baishan has lost 2 times already. Fortunately, the losses were not large. Baishan is planning on allying with the Yao in the area. However, the battle general of that Yao battalion is very young, and it is a female. Female? Ajagu stilled. Yes, she's called Mushi. She is from a famous family, the Palace Lake Mu clan, but she is too young. I'm slightly worried. The large man's expression was slightly displeased. He clearly felt discontent that their ally had sent a little girl. Ajagu was also worried, but he still comforted. Palace Lakewood clan is a famed family. If they dare to send this little girl, she definitely is extraordinary in some aspect. I hope it is so. The large man grimaced and suddenly said, What do you think about the state of affairs? Ajagu smiled. To use a common saying, a new era has arrived. How so? The large man asked interestedly. The sky-splitting calamity has pushed the Yaoma and Xiuzhe that used to be separated by Blood Sky Metropolis Jia back together. It is unavoidable for Yaoma and Xiuzhe to mix together. Ajagu's expression was extremely serious. The large man shook his head in disagreement. We and the Xiuzhe have generations of blood and hate between us. How can we mix? As there is more and more contact between Yaoma and Xiuzhe, the mixing cannot be stopped. There are so many chaos rifts, who can seal them all? This whirlpool will increase in size, no one can escape. We will definitely be fighting now, but there will be a day when everyone gets tired of fighting and will naturally come together, Ajagu said with a chuckle. The large man found it hard to accept what Ajagu said. He shook his head and said with a smile, Your thoughts are always different than everyone else. Time would prove everything. Ajagu raised an eyebrow. Turtle Island. Ma Fan's face almost scrunched into a ball. Looking at the busy campsite, he rubbed his head. He really wanted to complain and say, so troublesome, but when the words reached his mouth, he swallowed them. Right now, he was the commander of a camp, and he could not be as carefree as before and do as he wished. Ever since Lil Miss put Black Turtle Camp into his hands, he put almost all of his mind and heart into it. Like a sponge, he furiously soaked up knowledge about being a battle general and spent all his time on this. The strength of Black Turtle Camp had continuously increased. As Turtle Island's status in Cloud Sea Jia continued to stabilize, there were greater numbers of young and accomplished people that came to participate. The average strength level was much higher. Other than an occasional inspection, Lil Miss did not pay too much attention to Black Turtle Camp. Black Turtle Camp was created entirely based on Ma Fan's thoughts. The skeleton of Black Turtle Camp was the Sky Peak Platoon and the other members were local Shioja. There were many Jindan Shioja, but in terms of combatability, they were very lacking compared to the Jindan of Vermilion Bird Camp. Even more troublesome was that these Shioja were from different families and had different spells and talismans they used. There were Diana Shio, Roaming Shio, and Sword Shio. Ma Fan knew that his battle general skill level was limited, so he changed his usual laid-back personality and paid careful attention to details. Maybe it was because he had been the tactical center before that Ma Fan was most skilled in microtactics. All of Black Turtle Camp followed him in this. He made up teams, one after the next, and designed small area tactics for all of them. Black Turtle Camp was like a smorgasbord. The Shioja in each team were of different types and each team's tactics were different. At many times, Ma Fan felt that his Black Turtle Camp was like the clothing of a beggar, patched together. He especially longed for the pleasure of Vermilion Bird Camp's 1,000 swords moving at once. However, he could only be envious. Whenever these thoughts occurred, then it was the time that Black Turtle Camp's training increased drastically. The training intensity of Black Turtle Camp was based on Vermilion Bird Camp's standard. The amount of training was so high that many local Shioja complained. However, Ma Fan was a cunning person. If someone wanted to slack off under his eyes, that was akin to seeking death. The sword formations were like cages dripping with blood as they were set up around the training camp. Wanted to slack off? Then in you go. Ma Fan did not have a high opinion of Black Turtle Camp, but what surprised him was that when Lil Miss came for an inspection, Lil Miss had praised him. When he saw the red eyes of Wei Ran and the others, Ma Fan felt his entire body lightened. Whenever he went back to think about this, Ma Fan's mood would become much better. However, while Black Turtle Camp had also participated in the fight for Middle Granary Jia, they were still overshadowed by Vermilion Bird Camp. He was not very happy. This time, Ma Fan had come back to Turtle Island with orders for Black Turtle Camp to engrave formations. Supposedly, Turtle Island's MO matrices had had a breakthrough. Golden Crow Camp could engrave even more powerful formations. Lil Miss, who felt that the camp's strength was not enough, decided to have Black Turtle Camp go back to get formations engraved. However, they had to wait for a few days. Golden Crow Camp still had a few MO who had not finished. Ma Fan was not in a hurry. Returning to Turtle Island, he felt very close to this. However, he still spent his time on the training of Black Turtle Camp. He was continuously correcting and adjusting the problems exposed during the battles of Middle Granary Jia. Suddenly, a paper crane flew in front of Ma Fan. Before he even unfolded it, Ma Fan's expression changed. This type of paper crane would only be used for an emergency report. He unfolded the paper crane. Enemy invasion. Jia River. Chapter 577. Please call me Xiao Imogu. The report had not come from Lil Miss Darren but from a town near the Jia River. They had originally been planning to set up the island formation near the town, when a battalion of about 1,000 people suddenly appeared. They realized that this battalion was not one from Cloud Sea Jia after the Shioja they sent as a messenger had been killed, confirming status as an enemy. When Ma Fan received the report, he understood the seriousness of the situation. Lil Miss was in Middle Granary Jia and in Cloud Sea Jia. The only camp that could fight was Black Turtle Camp. Fortunately, in order to connect the large Cloud Islands together, the transportation formations inside Cloud Sea Jia were very well developed. The area near the Jia River was also a place greatly protected and the transportation formations were very convenient. Ma Fan decided to report the news to Lil Miss Darren as he furiously organized his troops to rush towards the Jia River. After going through several transportation formations, Ma Fan's Black Turtle Camp reached the Jia River at their fastest possible speed. To his surprise, when he arrived, the other side was resting. With a moment of thought, Ma Fan understood. The other probably had traveled a long distance and needed to recover. The Shioja that had went to meet them had been killed. There was no need to inquire about their intentions. Such a powerful battalion, Nian Lu said in surprise. Ma Fan's expression was slightly grave. He could also see the extraordinary skill of this battalion, from their outfits, equipment, and their well-organized troops. They were definitely military. What are we afraid of? If we charge, they will fall. Lei Peng rumbled, his expression unconcerned. Without Lil Miss control in Black Turtle Camp, Lei Peng's bravado had grown. Can you see their origins? Ma Fan asked Nian Lu. Of the three, Nian Lu was the most detail-oriented and was a very good vice commander. Nian Lu's eyes narrowed, and a moment later, his expression changed slightly. It is a battalion from Xian Kong Temple. The insignia on their bodies flashed with light under the sun. Lil Miss had expected Xian Kong Temple to come seek them long ago and paid special attention to intelligence from Xian Kong Temple. Xian Kong Temple. Ma Fan's expression couldn't help but change slightly. No wonder he felt the others' troops were extraordinary, a Xian Kong Temple battalion. Having discovered the others' origins, the trio knew there was no way to avoid this fight. But a battalion from Xian Kong Temple. Up until now, Black Turtle Camp had never had a large battle. Ma Fan knew without thinking what the result of facing the Xian Kong Temple battalion was. Lil Miss Darren had definitely received the news now. Vermilion Bird Camp was most likely on the way. What they needed to do was delay them and wait for Vermilion Bird Camp to arrive. Ma Fan didn't even think about facing them in real battle. Cloud Sea Jie was not a large Jie, and even the outstanding disciples of local sects were lacking compared to the Xiuzhe in the others' battalion. But no matter what, they could not let the other advance deep into Cloud Sea Jie. The Great Thousand Island formation was not yet complete. There was Turtle Island and Golden Crow Camp. If the other charged onto Turtle Island, then Darren's great estate would be ruined. He definitely could not accept this. Ma Fan looked behind him. Black Turtle Camp had departed just as training for the day had started. They were now just warmed up, and they had arrived using the transportation formations, so they had not expended a great amount of energy along the way. In other words, Black Turtle Camp's energy and alertness were at their peak. The other might looked disciplined, but their expressions could not disguise their tiredness. Ma Fan gritted his teeth, murderousness flashing through his eyes. This was their best chance. If the other recovered, then it would not be good. Thinking it through, Ma Fan's expression calmed down. He pulled over Lei Peng. Lei Zi, you are first, let's charge. Lei Peng grinned, his expression excited. He liked these words the best. As to that Xian Kong Temple, who was that? Feng Yu's expression darkened. This battalion had clearly come from another place. The other's quick response almost surpassed her imagination. She was very knowledgeable and instantly understood Cloud Sea Jie had built a well-developed transportation formation system. She couldn't help but be surprised. Everyone knew the benefits of a transportation formation system, but each transportation formation was a significant expenditure. They also needed Xiuzhe skilled in seal formations to build them, and creating a system would take a large amount of jingshi. Not everyone would be willing to spend such a great price. But when her gaze swept this battalion, the anxiety in her heart settled back down. The other battalion's skill level was very lacking compared to her battalion. She did not feel that this was strange. This was an expected situation. The regular battalions of Xian Kong Temple were not lacking compared to the elite battalions of smaller places. This was what it meant to be a great sect. Even more, they were one of the Great Four. They were like the titans at the top of the food chain. They could idly look down at the beings living below. With just a pinky, they could crush a whole group of little ants. In the eyes of Feng Yu, Cloud Sea Jie was a little group of ants. Ants could chew an elephant to death, but not a dragon. Suddenly, her expression stilled. Disbelief came onto her face. The other battalion was charging at them. Feng Yu had followed Jiang Zhe numerous battles. Other than the Imo, no battalion had ever attacked them first. Were these people crazy? Feng Yu stood up, her eyes becoming icy. She was going to let these ants know that even the spark of anger from a dragon was enough to burn them to the point that not even ash would remain. The other Xiuzhe also stood up. The laughable actions of the other side provoked these proud combat Xiu. Gao Xian was feeling panicked. He had not expected Feng Yu to be in such a rush. He had sprinted with 500 people, but he still could not catch up to the other. The reply that Feng Yu had given him was that she would finish the battle as quickly as possible. Thinking about this, Gao Xian couldn't help but grimace. He was trying his best to hurry and catch up, but the girl was not grateful. However, he did not doubt Feng Yu's confidence. Feng Yu was a better battle general than he was, and the 1,000 combat Xiao in her command were experienced and had been tempered in battle. Even though they could not compare to the Jiangzi battalion, they would dominate in any normal jia. But he still did not dare to linger and sprinted on. Hem hem hem. Zuo pretentiously coughed. Everyone, including Tao Xing, Tang Fei and Shou Ping, were pulled over. Everyone looked in puzzlement at Zuo looking at him. It seemed he had something to announce. Starting from today, everyone, call me Xiao Mo Ge. Zuo bowed. The people stared at each other and did not understand what Zuo was doing. Tao Xing was the first to react. His eyes lit up. Is Mr. Zuo worried that someone will figure out your background? It is Mr. Xiao. Zuo seriously corrected Tao Xing. Tang Fei's expression shifted. Inside, she thought, was this guy's background really extraordinary? Otherwise, why would he use an alias? Zuo's reaction was evidence for Tao Xing's speculation. Tao Xing said unconcernedly, even though I feel that this will not work, but if you insist, this isn't a problem. Very good. Zuo clapped and turned to look at the other people. Tang Fei nodded. All right. Shou Ping obediently nodded. Not a problem, Xiao Darren. After he had been admonished by Tsing Lianer, Shou Ping became much more obedient. Zuo automatically ignored Tsing Liana. Zuo was not changing his name due to an impulse. The name Zuo would easily catch the attention of Kunlun. Who would know if there were Kunlun spies here? Even though you are not part of my battalion, I still have to remind you that the challenge this time is not an accident. Someone is acting against us, Zuo said calmly. Tao Xing nodded. It is Bu Heng. He had stayed in Great Peace City before and knew what went on behind the scenes. He explained, Bu Heng and his battalion have entered Great Peace City. He should be the culprit this time. This guy just won't go away, Zuo muttered. He had completely forgotten how he had killed a few hundred of the others' people. However, when he thought, he instantly became happy. Bu Heng would not rest and would definitely send more people to test him out. Wouldn't they be delivering themselves to him? He wouldn't have to go find time to make challenges. However, before this, he had to make a few more trips to the MO skill steels. The content on the steels were very useful. What he had comprehended from the MO skill steels had been crucial in dealing the fatal strike to Pang Qin. This filled him with anticipation about the other content on the MO skill steels. Awen had been scolded heavily by Xu Long after his epiphany passed. Protecting Darren would be his first responsibility. Thinking how Darren had left someone to guard him so he would not be disturbed during his epiphany, Awen was both moved and ashamed. Yet what he had not expected was that Darren had given him an unexpected order. Darren requested that he had to read every MO skill steal. Even if Awen was stupid, he understood that Darren's orders were to benefit him. He swore inside he would always follow Darren. Zuo did not think so much. He was still feeling the longing for the MO skill steals. Yet what he did not expect was when he walked out of the yard, someone shouted, "He's come out." Whoosh, a big group of people surrounded him. Zuo was shocked and almost attacked, but he quickly found that while these people were excited, they did not hold enmity. Darren, please accept me as your student. Darren, please accept me as your student. The tide of people crowded around Zuo and cut off all paths of exit. Zuo's face was confused and he clearly did not understand what was going on. Only when Tao Xing came out of the compound, squeezing through the crowd to stand next to him and explain, did Zuo finally understand. They wanted to become his students. These people had come in search of a teacher. This was caused by Zuo's victory of Pang Qin. The crowd was packed and looked extremely spectacular. After a rough glance, Zuo estimated there were at least 100 people, all of them looking pleadingly at Zuo. Do not agree. Tao Xing said in a low voice by his ear, these people are not strong enough and do not have any potential. If you agree, they will be a burden. Zuoremo was silent. Chapter 578, Chi Diao Yuzwa Emo looked back at the pleading eyes. Thinking about his past, he did not feel good about his decision, but he also knew that Tao Xing was right. This was not Cloud Sijia. He was surrounded by enemies here, and he would die if he was the least bit careless. At that time, it wouldn't just be risking his life. If he was in trouble, even these people would not have good endings. Zuoremo was about to speak. Suddenly, a strange sound pierced the noisy street from the distance. It was like a flute, but not a flute. The sound was thin as a hair and just barely discernible. The loud streets instantly quieted. This sound seemed to have a power that could soothe one's mind and unconsciously calm them. A figure slowly walked in from the direction of the city gate. A little black dot slowly grew into a tall figure. Snowy white robes, eyes like lacquer, the black hair fell like a waterfall onto a face that was so beautiful it did not seem like one of a man. There seemed to be an indiscernible power that made one unable to move their gaze. Around this figure, several drops of transparent water mischievously condensed and scattered like a school of fish. That strange and bewitching sound was produced by these water droplets. When this person walked closer, that feeling of serenity grew stronger. He walked slowly, his eye looking forwards as though he did not see any other people. His movements were graceful and ethereal like that of an immortal. The sounds produced by the water droplets were extremely pleasing to hear. The more Zuoremo listened, the more enchanted he became. Some beautiful memories appeared in his mind's eye. All the worries, all his depression, they all dissipated. A smile unconsciously rose onto his face. Suddenly, the sun script at Zuoremo's chest lit up. A slender burning flow of power circulated automatically around his body. Zuoremo shook. The scene in front of him changed, the pictures shattering. The voice that reached into his mind was still pleasant to hear, but had lost its enchanting power. Zuoremo was shocked. The people around him all still had dreamy smiles and caused his hairs to stand on end. Such a powerful emo sound. He raised his head and stared hard at the figure. Who was this person? The other seemed to pause slightly in his footsteps, glancing at Zuoremo out of the corner of his eyes, but he did not stop and continued to walk forward. The entire street was deathly silent. Everyone had that strange smile on their face. Umph! A cold snort which was not loud rang over Great Peace City like a roar of thunder. The faintly discernible emo sound seemed to have been pushed and instantly dissipated. The people who had been bewitched seemed to wake up. Their faces became ashen. They looked in respect and terror at the man in the snowy white robes. Tao Xing also woke up. When he saw the white-robed male in the center of the street, his expression changed dramatically. Terror rose on his face as he exclaimed, "Chi Diao Yu." Hearing this, Zuoremo also reacted and hurriedly asked, "Chi Diao Yu, why has he come to Great Peace City?" Tao Xing murmured to himself with a white face. Chi Diao Yu's figure had disappeared right as the sound that had enchanted their hearts had also disappeared. The entire street became busy and loud again, but there was still a trace of terror that remained on everyone's faces. Chi Diao Yu is one of the most famous experts right now. He reached the peak of general level when he was 23. In search of a breakthrough, he came to Great Peace City. In the 1 year he was here, he challenged and defeated many heroes. Then he disappeared. I had not expected him to return to Great Peace City again. Tao Xing had a reminiscing expression. That was about 3 years ago. Now Great Peace City will be busy. So strong. Zuoremo sighed. Even he had been caught just now. The other's power was immeasurable. He really is powerful. He also came out of nowhere and has a mysterious background. Even now, no one knows what family he belongs to. Pang Chen, the person you killed, became famous because he managed to withstand 30 of Chi Diao Yu's moves before being defeated. You can imagine just how powerful Chi Diao Yu was back then. An expression of respect came onto Tao Xing's face. He's even more powerful than before. Zuoremo's expression was grave. He did not know how great Chi Diao Yu's power was now, But he believed that if Pang Chen once again fought Qi Diaoyu, he would not survive one move. Even the pressure that the old thieving Baldi Dingjin had given Zhuo Mo was not as strong as Qi Diaoyu. Qi Diaoyu had not purposely released that sound. That was just the weak ripples of power leaking out from the water droplets. The aftereffects were already so strong. If the other used their full power, how terrifying would it be? Zhuo Mo was not sure how many of the other's moves he would be able to withstand. This was the strongest MO that Zhuo Mo had encountered until now. He went to the MO skill steals? Zhuo Mo suddenly said. Let's go to the MO skill steals tomorrow, Tao Xing hurriedly said. Zhuo Mo's expression suddenly changed. Damn it, A1 is still at the MO skill steals. As he spoke, he leapt into the air and sprinted towards the MO skill steals. He was extremely panicked. A1, do not provoke this demon. At a full sprint, he was extremely fast and in a blink, he reached the MO skill steals. When he arrived, he instantly sighed in relief. Demon Qi's figure had disappeared into the deeper regions of the steel forest. It seemed that his goal should be the MO skill steals at the very end. A1 was sitting with a dazed expression under a different stone steel. This guy was having an epiphany again? Zhuo Mo paused and didn't know to laugh or cry. He then sighed in wonder. A1's talent was really outstanding. He had sent the other people to copy the contents of what was on the MO skill steals so everyone would have a copy, but up until now, the only one who had an epiphany was A1. Even more shocking was that this was his second epiphany. Zhuo Mo was becoming slightly jealous. He had comprehended a lot from the MO skill steals, but he had not entered the state of epiphany. This guy had entered it 2 times. Zhuo Mo shook his head and smiled. His anxiety settling down, he started to read once again. His speed of progression was very fast. Even if he encountered a problem, he would understand after some thought. Right now, he had the strength of a general level, and he could examine the problems from a deeper level of power. He naturally solved these problems easily. The MO skill steals quickly resumed their normal levels of activity. Qi Diaoyu went into the deepest part of the steel forest and did not affect the people reading on the outer regions. The busy flows of people appeared again. Zhuo Mo's steps gradually slowed. As he went deeper, the content on the stone steels became harder to understand. He needed to slowly think and ponder over their lessons. As he went deeper, there were fewer people around him. Zhuo Mo's surprise increased. He found something unique about the MO skill steals. Starting from the 22nd MO skill steel, the content on the steel was not just limited to MO skills. He found many descriptions on it that were similar to spells and Yao arts. At the beginning, he had thought this was a coincidence, but as similarities in the content increased, he found to his shock this was not a coincidence. Spells, Yao arts, MO skills, Zhuo Mo had learned all 3 areas before. Even though his cultivation of spells was not outstanding, he had read many jade scrolls and his fundamental knowledge was deep. As to the Yao arts, while they were not as outstanding as his MO skills, he was able to cast the archaic wasteland's sacrificial art and could be called an expert in the Yao world. This meant that he did not face too many barriers when he reached lessons on these areas, but he couldn't help but feel puzzled. Had Shi Ziming been skilled in the 3 powers? As he went deeper, this puzzlement increased. Shi Ziming's theories, no matter if it was spells, Yao arts, or MO skills, were accurate and profound. Even a freak like Zhuo Mo that was skilled in all 3 felt it was difficult to understand in many places. Was there really someone in the world that was born knowing this? At a corner not far from the MO skill steals. Which steel he at now? A pointy-faced man lowered his voice to ask. But his gaze did not leave Zhuo Mo, who was in front of the stone steel. 26th. His fellow with purple hair and a black face gave an accurate answer. Is this guy just looking around? The pointy-faced man said hesitantly. This speed is slightly fast. Slightly fast? It is too fast. The purple-haired man said coldly. Yes, to reach and read the 26th MO skill steel, it is not possible. The pointy-faced man said unconcernedly. Has he discovered that we are watching him? Who says it is not possible? You forgot that person, the purple-haired man said. Who? the pointy-haired man asked. The one in there. The purple-haired man pushed his lips towards the deepest part of the steel forest. Did you forget what that person did in the past? Hiss. The pointy-faced man inhaled sharply and his face paled. How can I forget? In one day and night, comprehended 30 pieces of the stone steel, that speed had been something no one else achieved before and no one else since. It is true that no one did it before him, but it's not certain that there is no one else after him. The purple-haired man stared attentively at Zuemo and said to himself, I have a feeling that this Xiao Gu is not an average person. You don't think he's just strolling by? The pointy-faced man said in disbelief. No. The purple-haired man said, notice how long he is spending in front of every steel. The deeper the steel is, the longer he spends on it. He has spent more than 2 hours in front of this MO skill steel. He is clearly thinking and not just glancing at the content. Then isn't he? The pointy-faced man stammered. Just like how Qi Diaoyu was in the past. The purple-haired man said the second half of his fellow's sentence. He had been stationed at Great Peace City for more than a decade. His daily task for the family was extremely dull. It was to observe the MO that were studying at the stone steels. Normal people would not notice these details, but they could estimate many things from these details. In his eyes, the effects of Zuemo's speed in going through the stone steels was more shocking than defeating Pang Qin. The purple-haired man stopped talking. His eyes flashed with a different light as he stared at Zuemo that was in deep thought in front of the steel. He had a strong feeling that another powerful person was going to appear in Great Peace City. Focusing, he said to his fellow, Quick, report this to the main steward. The pointy-faced man did not dare to hesitate and disappeared into the shadows. The purple-haired man's eyes suddenly turned in another direction of shadow within the steel forest. Right there, just now, another figure had flashed by. His eyes instantly narrowed. Without thinking, he knew who it was. An old opponent. There were also other observers in the other shadows. All of them had come. It seemed that everyone had great expectations for this person. Chapter 579, Bodhisattva's Raging Lotus. Their battlefield spanned hundreds of li blinding balls of light in various colors lit up the sky. The sound of explosions and sharp howls continued constantly. Sword energies, spells, talismans, lights of various colors were like rainbows as countless figures in battle formations flashed between the waves of light, chasing, fighting, all kinds of moves. People were occasionally crushed into dust, or fell from the sky into the cloud sea. This was especially with the fighting between the Jindan of both sides, where one full-powered attack could create balls of light that were dozens of mu in size. They were like miniature suns. The rampaging wave of air spreading into all directions. One side wanted to end as soon as possible. The other pressed the offense as their defense. From the beginning, the fighting was at a high-intensity level. Feng Yu quickly felt the pressure of the enemy attack. They had expected a quick collapse of the other's forces shortly after initial contact. The other was like a glue that stayed on them. The other's strength was not high and their fighting methods were not outstanding. In her view, they were scattered and disorganized. But such a chaotic troop had fought them here for an hour and were not at a disadvantage. Why was it like this? She knew that her combat shio were exhausted from their trip and knew that the other had more people, but in her view these factors should not have been enough to delay their progress. Their collective strength was a whole level higher, they were better trained, and they had more combat experience. In her experience, they should be cleaning up the battlefield right now rather than fighting at a standstill. Feng Yu forced herself to calm down. She felt unused to Jiangzhi's absence, but her training and experience quickly showed itself. She examined the battlefield. Lei Peng's eyes were bloodshot from bloodlust. He was the sharpest blade of Black Turtle Camp. That door-sized gold crystal sword caused all talismans to shatter wherever it passed. In this moment he seemed undefeatable. They were like a burning hot rod of metal piercing through a piece of butter. The two sides had fought to a battle of attrition. Ma Fan's eyes were not relaxed like usual but were as sharp as an eagle. The situation right now was very beneficial for them. Black Turtle Camp was at full strength and they had the advantage of numbers. Choosing a battle of attrition was very appropriate for them. The longer they managed to drag out the fight, the more beneficial it would be for them. Black Turtle Camp had just been created. It was fine when the momentum of the fighting was in their favor. But if the others' presence was too strong, their morale, in all likelihood, would crumble. A chaotic battle like this suited their utilization of microtactics. As expected, after the panic of their first battle passed, Black Turtle Camp quickly adjusted. The tactics that Ma Fan had designed had a clear speciality. That is, each little team's tactic was designed around a core member. Those that were the core members were either members of Sky Peak Platoon or very experienced combat Shio. As long as the tactical core of each team was not panicked, the entire team would be stabilized. These core's members did not fail Ma Fan's trust. They quickly steadied their team, their members found their resolve, and they became even stronger. On the chaotic battlefield, the Shioja of the Black Turtle Camp were becoming more and more at ease. In the past, the combat Shio of Sky Peak Platoon had been handpicked by Lil Mississippi. The great majority of them were in Now Jindan, and their daily training regimen was much harder than normal combat Shio. For a very long time in the past, Sky Peak Platoon had been the sharpest knife in Lil Miss' hand. Each of them were elite members that had been through many battles. Even when facing the Jindan of the other camp, they were not at a disadvantage. Feng Yui quickly discovered Ma Fan's plan to draw her into a battle of attrition. Her brow creased and she said in a cold voice, "Do not linger in battle. Reorganize for a charge using a battle formation." The Xian Kong Temple combat Shio systematically disengaged from their opponents. Their speed was extremely fast and the combat Shio of Black Turtle Camp could not keep up. The talismans that Turtle Island combat Shio had were good, but that was only in comparison with an average faction. When compared with a great entity like Xian Kong Temple, they were very lacking. Feng Yu swept the enemy with a glance. In such a short amount of time, she had lost about 100 people. Even though the other sides had definitely suffered more losses, she still felt fury. She had been forced into a standstill against a troop like this. This could not be forgiven. Feng Yu's eyes turned icy. The combat Shio gathered around her. Everyone looked at her and waited for her orders. Feng Yu took a deep breath and raised her right hand. Bodhisattva's Raging Lotus Battle Formation. The eyes of the combat Shio lit up. They moved closer to each other and their low morale quickly rose. Bodhisattva's Raging Lotus Battle Formation. One of the classic battle formations of Xian Kong Temple which possessed shocking power in its charge. In the battle over Cold Mountain Jia, the formation that Jiangxia had used the most was the Bodhisattva's Raging Lotus Battle Formation. Under the Bodhisattva's Raging Lotus Battle Formation, even the domineering Mo had turned to ash. The Fire Lotus was unparalleled. Each of the four great sects had their own unique battle tactics that formed their own systems. But in terms of offensive charge strength, Kun Lun's Transverse Leap Sword Battle Formation, Tianhuan's Celestial Will Battle Formation, Shixian's Flowing Gold Battle Formation, and Xian Kong Temple's Bodhisattva's Raging Lotus Battle Formation were the strongest. Red snakes of fire burned and coiled around the arms of every Xian Kong Temple combat Shio. The other side was shrinking back. This movement caused them to feel excited. When Ma Fan saw the other side's combat Shio withdraw from their battles, he knew the other had discovered his intentions. However, he had expected this. He used Lei Peng's charge to push into the other's troops in order to force them into a battle of attrition. As long as the other side's battle general was not stupid, he believed the other would eventually respond to this tactic. Would a battle general from Xian Kong Temple be stupid? He did not believe it. However, he was slightly shocked at the other's quick response. He knew that the true battle had just begun. The greenhorns of Black Turtle Camp had started to adjust to the rhythm of the battlefield. After this, they would be able to tolerate more pressure and their morale would not crumble so easily. They are going to charge. It should be the Bodhisattva's Raging Lotus. Nian Lu's eyes narrowed as he panted lightly. He had been fighting intensely with a Jindan just now. Ma Fan nodded. He also recognized it. Ever since they had learned they would fight against Xian Kong Temple, They had collected intelligence on the battle tactics of Xian Kong Temple. Naturally, Ma Fan had read them. He licked his lips and a cold light flashed through his eyes. Have everyone prepare. I hadn't thought that this great gift would be for them. They are really lucky. Nian Lu snickered and went back to prepare. Black Turtle Camp quickly formed a circular formation that looked just the same as the average defensive formation. Pay attention. All of you, pay attention. Listen. Do not panic. Just do what we usually practice. Don't look at them, they are trying to scare you. There's nothing big. Didn't we just kill 100 of them just now? Every experienced combat shio was trying to raise the morale of their fellows. They had only ever practiced this battle formation in training and had never used it in real battle. This battle formation was something that Ma Fan had spent great time and effort to create. His initial goal was to be able to stop the 3-section wave-killing charge of Vermilion Bird Camp. Even though it could theoretically stop it, because he never used it outside of practice, Ma Fan was not very confident. However, since the other was using an offensive formation, then this battle formation was the most suited to be used against it. All of this is for you. Ma Fan stared hard at the other side. His expression when he licked his lips was like a wolf in the middle of a hunt. He was slightly anxious, but his expression revealed he was more excited. At this moment, the other moved. In the sky, thousands of lines of fire appeared like a storm of fire. The howls rumbled and the cloud sea shook. The snakes of fire wrapped around the arms of every Xian Kong Temple combat shio suddenly grew multiple times. What was most shocking were those Jindan Xiozha. Their right arms were completely enveloped under the burning flames. The color of their fire was deeper than normal combat shio, and the sound caused by their flames was not loud, but extremely deep and stunning to the mind. They accelerated. The roar increased. The terrifying wave of air was like a huge axe that cleaved apart the cloud sea under them, forming in stunning sight as the fire cut an expanding wave through the cloud sea. The Jindan Xiozha at the very front had a completely red face. A long tail streaked off the flames on his arms. His pupils suddenly contracted as he shouted angrily, "Rage!" His right fist that was pulled behind his body punched forward with all of his power. Rage! The combat shio behind him shouted and punched in unison. Almost 1,000 fiery red fist energies left their hands. Like fire dragons charging out of the cage, they howled and leapt forward. The closer to the rear the fist energies were, the faster the energies were. Starting from the last fiery fist energy, they continued to collide into the flames ahead of them and then into the ones further ahead. The layers of collisions formed a bigger and bigger fiery fist energy. It was like a flame monster that continuously cannibalized its fellows to grow larger. In a flash, the fiery fist energies formed into one enormous fireball. The surface of the fireball constantly shifted. It was possible to faintly discern an enormous figure that was trailing a long tail of flame. Inside the ball of fire, the enormous figure grew clearer. Its features sharpened, the flames on the surface melting like ice. A furious face appeared in front of everyone's eyes. There seemed to be an invisible hand that was sculpting these scorching flames. Bam! Like the crack of glass, the flames outside the ball of fire dispersed to sparks and dissipated in the wind. Among the spray of sparks, an angrily Bodhisattva 30 zhang tall shot into the air. His right hand was holding a bright red fire lotus that was multiple times larger than his body. Like a meteor, it shot towards Black Turtle Camp that had shrunk into a circle. In this moment, the sky seemed to turn red from the burning flames. The cloud sea underneath their feet drastically crumbled. The angry eyes of the flame lotus bodhisattva were indifferent as though he was staring down at ants. Ma Fan did not dare to breathe. He started hard at the charging fire lotus bodhisattva, a crazy expression rising in his eyes. Suddenly, his pupils expanded. His flying sword, which had already been raised, sliced down with all his might. Kill! Chapter 580 Arcing Rainbow Battle Formation. There was a ball of light in each member of Black Turtle Camp's hand. The colors were different and from afar, It seemed that many lanterns of different colors had been lit. But if one looked closely, they would find to their shock that these lanterns of different colors were arranged in layers, one over the other. There were more than 36 layers that had formed an irregular curve. When Ma Fan's shout of "kill" sounded, all the Xiozha in the outermost layer of troops unhesitatingly threw out the balls of light in their hands in unison. An arc of light that was like a rainbow suddenly flew out of the circular formation and headed towards the Bodhisattva's fire lotus. Woo-woo! The howls sounded, and the arcs of light fit together in layers. They were densely packed, and in a tenth of a breath, 36 arcs of light were released. The color of each light arc was different. 36 colored arcs of different colors folded over each other and formed an even more varied rainbow. Arcing rainbow battle formation. This was the defensive formation that Ma Fan had created for Black Turtle Camp. For this formation, he had spent a great deal of time, spending extreme amounts of effort, and made countless trips to Golden Crow Camp. The moment this blinding rainbow arc formed, unprecedented excitement spread into every fiber of Ma Fan's muscles. His body uncontrollably trembled. Everyone could not attend to their rest. They unconsciously stopped breathing. No one would know how much they had suffered to train this battle formation to completion or how much punishment they had endured. Each person, from Ma Fan to the newest combat show of the camp, had repeatedly practiced. That blinding beautiful rainbow was just as difficult to form as it was beautiful. 36 arcs of light. If one of them was incorrectly formed, it would mess up the other arcs of light and disperse the light in a burst of fireworks that had no effect. The Bodhisattva seemed to feel danger. It gave a sky-shaking howl, his hands holding up the lotus and smashing it down. The rainbow was like a wind that swept across the sky and silently appeared in front of the Bodhisattva. The fresh red flame. The blindingly beautiful rainbow. The two collided. The light that was produced pierced the world, but none of the Jindan Xiozha blinked. They stared with wide eyes, afraid to miss a single detail. The first light arc shattered. The second light arc shattered. The 10th light arc cracked. The 11th light arc cracked. The 18th arc of light stopped the fire Losu. The Rage Lotus Bodhisattva shouted angrily, throwing himself into the fire lotus. The fire lotus exploded, breaking the arc of light. The 23rd arc of light. The fire lotus seemed to now be planted on this arc of light, as if it was grown there as decoration. No matter how it moved, the arc of light did not budge. Boom! The fire lotus suddenly exploded. The blinding red light suddenly lit up in a patch of burning white light. Even the Jindan had to close their eyes. The 24th layer shattered. The 25th layer shattered. The 27th layer held and did not retreat a sliver. The rampaging waves of hot air flowed along the curved surface of the arcs and vented towards the two sides. The Jindan under Feng Yu's command had pale faces. The strong backlash from their failed attack had instantly wounded them. Some Xiozha of lower cultivation spat out blood and fell forward. Their teammates hurriedly grabbed hold of them. However, the faces of these Xiozha were red from overexertion. They clearly would not be able to survive. But no one cared about this. Everyone was staring at that arc of light that seemed gossamer thin with dazed expressions. It had been stopped. How was it possible? How could the Bodhisattva's raging lotus be stopped? Feng Yu looked dazedly at that beautiful rainbow air, her face filled with disbelief. No one knew better than she did the power of the Bodhisattva's raging lotus. She believed that even the other three great sects could not so easily stop the Bodhisattva's raging lotus. This had been stopped. After staring dazedly for a few breaths, Feng Yu suddenly reacted and her face paled. The Bodhisattva's raging lotus was powerful, but it had a weakness. It was too fierce. If it was stopped, it easily caused severe backlash. But because it was usually unstoppable, this flaw was not usually remembered. Until now. This weakness exposed. Feng Yu looked around and felt even worse. About half of the combat show were wounded. For the first time, she stared at the other side as though she just met them. She almost bit through her lips. An unknown battalion from an unknown Jie. Even now, She did not know what the other battalion was called. But a battalion like this had stopped the Bodhisattva's raging lotus battle formation that shook all of the 4 realms. She stared hard at the other as though she wanted to imprint them in her mind. Haha, I just knew. I just knew. What's there to be afraid of? Lei Peng's loud voice could be heard from a distance. His expression was tired, but he was very excited. Nian Lu also had a big smile on his face. His handsome face looked now like that of a child. Excitement was on Ma Fan's face, but he could not manage to say a word. He was too excited, really too excited, unprecedentedly excited. The arcing rainbow battle formation was his masterpiece. He knew that he was not an outstanding battle general, but since Lil Miss Darren had given him control of Black Turtle Camp, he could never fail the others' hopes. The Xiuzha of different types, the various spells, he had used shocking patience to slowly merge them into one. There were no complex tactics, but an astounding number of micro-tactics. He might have thought of the arcing rainbow battle formation, but the one who perfected it was Golden Crow Camp. He knew his own limits. He knew that Black Turtle Camp, based on their composition, would not be able to fight offensively and dominate like Vermilion Bird Camp. What he had trained Black Turtle Camp for were battles of attrition and defense. He slowly pulled and pushed this Black Turtle Camp together by the skin of his teeth. There was nothing that could excite him, the creator, more than having Black Turtle Camp show its power. But at this time, he suppressed the excitement inside. He observed the other side. When he saw the other side's low morale and wounded Xiuzha, he instantly sighed in relief. This was the debut battle of the arcing rainbow battle formation. Everyone, including him, did not hold anything back in reserve. Right now, they were pretty much at the end of their rope. Fortunately, both sides were close to exhaustion. The 2 troops strangely held the standoff. Both sides had the same plan. They were waiting for the reinforcements from their fellows. In Ma Fan's mind, Vermilion Bird Camp was invincible. If Vermilion Bird Camp came, they could kill this battalion even if it was double this size. In Feng Yu's mind, Gao Xian was leading 500 members of the Jiangzi Battalion, the core battalion of Xian Kong Temple. Even if the enemy battalion was multiple times this size, 500 Jiangzi Battalion members could kill them all. Suddenly, Ma Fan and Feng Yu showed expressions of joy at the same time. Almost at the same time, 2 battalions appeared behind their respective fellows. Vermilion Bird Camp. Jiangzi Battalion. Lil Miss gaze swept the battlefield and instantly gleaned a general idea of the situation. He gave Ma Fan a look of praise. But when his gaze landed on the other battalion, his gaze suddenly turned icy and his smile grew. When he found that there were only 500 people in the reinforcements, Lil Miss pride came. Wei Ran. This subordinate is here. Wei Ran hurriedly said. Pick 500 and go meet them. Lil Miss' smile was like a flower, his voice filled with pride and iciness. Yes. Wei Ran's expression was normal as he responded. A battalion of 500 people quickly separated out of Vermilion Bird Camp. When Gao Xian looked at he unharmed Feng Yu, he instantly sighed in relief. But when he looked closely, he was shocked. It seemed that Feng Yu had suffered a significant loss. Their morale was low and almost half of the combat Xiu were injured. Narrowing his eyes, coldness flashed through Gao Xian's eyes. When had Xian Kong Temple ever lost so severely? He did not say anything. The entire troop flowed into position front of Feng Yu's battalion like mercury. His expression was normal and steady as he stared at the other side. There was no change in expression. But when he noticed a battalion of approximately the same size approach their ranks, his gaze suddenly turned sharp. Even as composed as he was, he couldn't help but feel slight anger. When had Jiangzi Battalion been disrespected so? The Jiangzi Battalion always fought with less against many. They could fly in and out among enemies multiple times their number and they were unstoppable. When had the enemy used the same number of people to fight Jiangzi Battalion? Those ignorant had no fear. Gao Xian's heart was cold and murderousness spread. Wei Ran looked calmly at the other side. He was one of the commanders that had followed Lil Miss for the longest time. Unlike Ma Fan, he did not show great talent in the beginning, But following Lil Miss he had learned as he fought in battle, his talent as a battle general was like the jade encased in stone that was gradually exposed. Lil Miss' judgment of him was that he had the style of a great general. Of course, with Lil Miss' crazy personality, he couldn't help but feel Wei Ran was slightly gentle, but this did not affect Wei Ran's position in Vermilion Bird Camp. Wei Ran had participated from start to finish in establishing the new tactical plan. Even though he could not compare to Lil Miss that understood Xiuzhe, Yao, and him, other than Lil Miss no one understood the new tactics better than he did. Also, his gaze landed on Ma Fan and he couldn't help but feel a thread of admiration. For any battle general, being able to create a battalion based on their own fighting style was an unparalleled temptation. Wei Ran moved his gaze away. He looked towards the enemy. He could see that the other's troop was the elite of elite, but without knowing it, the fighting spirit burning inside him and boiled his blood. The fighting spirit in his eyes was no disguised any longer. This battle he had to win. Chapter 581, Shifting Star Sands. Zhuo Mo was immersed in reading. Shi Ziming was an uncanny genius. He had never cultivated, but his knowledge of power was exceptionally accurate. In his descriptions, the fundamentals of each system were clearly described and Zhuo Mo gained a lot. It was the first time that the three power systems were so clear in Zhuo Mo's mind. In the past, he had spent a lot of effort training the three powers but had never put them together. The three formed their own systems, and there were many branches in technique to each. Spells, Yao arts, Mo skills, which one did not have millions of techniques. Not to mention identifying the roots of all three powers, just identifying the roots of one system was difficult. The variations of each system were like the branching veins of the leaf. There was the primary branch and the secondary branches within that system. Those that could gain perspective and identify the primary branches were the top experts. And to understand this with all three powers, who could do that? Looking at the soaring stone steels, Zhuo Mo couldn't help but feel as though he was staring at a tall mountain. If this was written by someone unparalleled in strength, Zhuo Mo would not be so shocked. But a Mo that did not cultivate any Mo skill could see all the profound mysteries. This talent, even 300 years later, was something that was astounding. Zhuo Mo had the deepest impression of Shi Ziming's description of the three powers. Because he cultivated Shen power, the three powers in his body were merged into one and were connected to each other. He already had a slight understanding of the connection between the three. His understanding was very vague. When he saw Shi Ziming's description of the connection, it was like a great bell and he understood many things. Great joy came from the bottom of his heart. He stared at the stone tablet, his mind was unusually clear. The three powers inside his body flowed and moved. It was midnight now. The firmament above his head was filled with a sea of stars. In the corner, the purple-haired man's face was filled with incredulity as he murmured to himself. The 32nd steel. The 32nd steel. He turned his face to look at the deepest part of the steel forest. He suddenly had a thought. The two people that had advanced the fastest through the Great Peace Mo skill steels had appeared at the same time. Was there fate involved? That year, he had watched as Qi Diaoyu walked into the Mo skill steels. Now, there was another youth that broke Qi Diaoyu's record. Many memories surged up and he sighed. But he knew, this was a night without rest for all the powers of Great Peace City. No faction would not act to try and recruit such a talented genius. At this time, a ray of starlight suddenly came down from the sea of stars and landed on Xiao Mo Gu in front of the stone steel. The ray of light was thick and dots of light sand fell down. Golden light suddenly came from Xiao Mo Gu's body that flickered like fire. Even from far away, the purple-haired man could feel the scorching heat. The star sand's light was not blinding, but among the shine of the stars, it was pretty to look at. The golden light was like a whirlpool that continuously pulled in the star sand. A worldly apparition. The purple-haired man looked in shock at the sky. The vast number of stars were slowly spinning, threads of light forming a ray of light. Such a spectacular scene caused his mind to almost lose control. An unfamiliar and distant term jumped into his mind: shifting star sand. In a deep part of the steel forest, Qi Diaoyu was like an old monk meditating in front of a stone forest. He had maintained this position for more than 12 hours. The indifference on his face had disappeared, and what had replaced it was concentration. That proud genius that was unable to be touched had disappeared. Qi Diaoyu at this time was like a normal Mo youth, less of the indifference and more of a gentleness. He suddenly raised his head, and his face, one that rarely showed any expression, changed. A ray of light fell from the vast expanse of stars and landed somewhere nearby in the steel forest. Shifting star sand. His eyes lit up and he lightly jumped onto the top of the stone steel. He was instantly able to get a clear view. It was him. A thread of surprise flashed across Qi Diaoyu's eyes. He had some impression of Zuemo. It was the first one to break free from his sound of enchantment when he had entered the city. It was this youth. Gazing for a long time, he was silent. Shifting star sand. When Zuemo had reached the 26th Mo skill steel, all the major factions in Great P City had started to secretly pay attention. As time went on and Zuemo advanced, every faction's nerves tightened. When Zuemo broke Qi Diaoyu's past record, Great P City was deathly silent, but the gazes of the major factions all gathered here. Another peerless genius had appeared. But when the worldly apparition appeared, the Great P City, which had been having turbulent underflows, instantly turned into chaos. Countless people flew into the sky and stared in shock at the pillar of light that came from the sky into the steel forest. A worldly apparition. The Mo that were familiar with this event couldn't help but shouting the unfamiliar words, shifting star sand. Excitement, shock, astonishment, puzzlement mixed on the faces of the Mo. Other than the starlight, the sky above Great P City was almost completely black. Almost all the Mo flew into the sky. Lan Tianlong looked at the ray of starlight with a complex expression. He had more avenues of information than normal people, and he knew who was causing the worldly apparition. He suddenly felt relieved that he had retreated at the city gates. Before this, he had the idea of recruiting the other, but when the news that the other had broken Qi Diaoyu's record, he sighed inside. A genius of this level was not one that the Lan family could recruit. But when he personally saw Zuemo cause the shifting star sands, while shocked, he couldn't help but snicker. He knew that tomorrow, Great P City was going to be busy. Those factions that wanted to recruit this person, tonight? This really was interesting. Yi Ling looked at the stars with an excited expression. All hail the king. Even though he always believed that Darren was someone strong that could become the king, when he personally saw Darren cause a worldly apparition, his body uncontrollably trembled. He raised his head to look at the vast expanse of stars that was slowly spinning with devoutness on his face. In the compound, everyone was gaping. And Zuemo's subordinates all had ecstatic expressions and could not suppress their excitement. Tao Xing, Tang Fei, and the others were stuck dumb where they were with wide gaping mouths. But if one had to be said to be the most shocked, it would be Tseng Lian, or no one knew better than she did what the power Zuemo cultivated inside his body was, but she looked at the ray of starlight that was coming down from the sky with shock in her eyes. He clearly cultivated Sunshin power. How could he attract the power of the stars? This was not possible. She had originally thought she had seen through Zuemo. She had even seen all of his memory fragments, and she also knew of the chaotic power flows inside his body. The Sunshin power was peerless in its dominance. But this also meant that Sunshin power strongly rejected other types of power. How could he cause an apparition of the stars? The moment that Zuemo caused the shifting stars sand, Pu Yao jumped up as though his behind was on fire. And Wei, who was usually composed, abruptly stood up. Shifting star sand. The two of them exclaimed at the same time. Pu Yao's bloody pupil was extremely wide, as though he was seeing a ghost. The indifference on Wei's face had disappeared to be replaced by shock. This is not possible. How is he doing it? The two exclaimed again. They exchanged a look and found the disbelief in each other's eyes. The two raised their faces. In the sea of consciousness, the star sand fell like snow. When a particle of star sand entered their bodies, their figures would grow a sliver more clear. After a moment of silence, their shock gradually faded from their faces. Pu Yao suddenly thought of the stars in daytime that had appeared in the past. That first worldly apparition had changed Zuomo's fate. If it was not for that first stars in daytime, Zuomo would have never left Wukong sword sect. Weiss' eyes grew brighter like the stars in night. He really is a genius. Looking at Weiss' expression, Pu Yao became wary. He said coldly, "Don't even think about it. Humph, what you said is, in the end, it is just sending him to die." Weiss' expression suddenly changed as he exclaimed, "Not good. The 3 seeds." Pu Yao stilled and then his expression changed drastically. The master of the 3 was Zuomo. The Yao art house was empty of people in the deep of night. In a corner of the Yao art house, there was countless dots of star sand that floated like fireflies around the steel. The steel suddenly produced a suction force and the star sand entered the steel. The damaged steel gradually lit up. A weak presence was like ripples in the water, faintly discernible. In a deep cave in a mountain valley, the star sand suddenly traveled through the layers of granite and shrouded the entire black pool. The silent black pool seemed to be awakened from a deep sleep and slowly shifted. Droplets of black liquid continuously broke free of the pool, floated up and accurately caught the star sand like little black insects. The moving black liquid consumed the star sand and dropped back into the black pool. As time passed, a layer of serene starlight flashed on the black pond. In the black pond, a figure slowly floated up. The serene starlight was like a thin membrane that tightly covered the surface of this figure. A presence like that of the water and the moon filled the cave. At a sacrificial altar in the desert, the star sand seemed to be caught by the fierce wind that continuously spun around the sacrificial altar. Dots of star sand entered the sacrificial altar and the patterns of the sacrificial altar started to slowly shift. The sacrificial altar flashed with light. In this black and remote desert, it was blindingly bright like an enormous star. At the center of the sacrificial altar, black figures roiled. Threads of starlight flashed in and out. The starlight seemed to melt into the black shadows like threads of ice. The black shadows were dyed with a slight layer of starlight. A deep roar came out of the black shadows. Chapter 582, Honing their blades. When the stars shifted, they would produce a vast amount of pure star power. This power would turn to star sand and enter the bodies of people. This sand was like the sand that people used to hone blades. Star sand could be used to refine the bodies of these people from the inside to the out, to perfect it. This was the shifting star sands, one of the most famous worldly apparitions. The light of the stars was not as domineering and burning as the light of the sun, nor as soft as the light of the moon. The stars were like sand and were the best power to hone the body. However, causing this worldly apparition was a matter of chance. In reality, even now, no one understood how to cause a worldly apparition. But everyone knew that if a person caused a worldly apparition during cultivation, they would be an extraordinary person. Zuomo did not know that all of Great Peace City was now exploding in excitement because of him. He was immersed in a wondrous world. There seemed to countless stars slowly moving around him. A power that seemed both familiar and unfamiliar continuously permeated his body. Zuomo recognized it. That was star sand. Each particle of star sand was extremely hard. With their sharp edges, they slowly advanced and moved in. Zuomo felt there seemed to be sandpaper slowly smoothing out his unrefined flesh and blood. There was no pain, but an indescribably comfortable feeling. It was intoxicating. There was a faint smile on Gong Suncha's face. No one knew what he was thinking. Everyone beside him had extremely serious faces. They stared at the battlefield and didn't dare to move their eyes away. Because Wei Ran was losing. The strength of the others' battle tactics surpassed their imagination. When the dozens of brigadier levels had been merged into Vermilion Bird Camp and they started using the new tactics, everyone had been full of confidence. In the practice spars inside the camp, the power of their new tactics was multiple times as strong as their previous 3-section wave-killing charge. Many people had been rubbing their hands eagerly, wanting to find a Jagu and having another battle. When Lil Miss had Wei Ran decided to face the enemy with equal numbers, no one had objected. They knew that Lil Miss wanted to test the new tactics. Everyone was filled with confidence and anticipation. They believed that Wei Ran would definitely win. Yet the reality was so cruel. This little battalion of 500 was unusually powerful. At the beginning, the two were evenly matched, but as time went on, the balance slowly tilted and Wei Ran was on the losing end. What caused their expressions to turn serious was that Wei Ran had not made any mistakes. Even so, his advantage was slowly slipping away. This was occurring at an extremely slow rate, but everyone had experienced hundreds of fights and could see this. There was still a faint small smile on Lil Miss' face that was as bashful as that of the neighbor's boy. No one knew what he was thinking. Feng Yu looked dazedly at the battlefield. She could see that Gao Xian was slowly gaining the advantage, but she was still shocked. No, it was amazed. She had been shocked when her Rage Lotus Bodhisattva had been stopped. But what this scene in front of her gave was shock, was fear. This was Jiangji Battalion. The battalion that had killed countless MO and just taken over Cold Mountain Jie. Every Jiangji Battalion member had been picked with care. They had outstanding talent and above-average resolve. The troop had been formed after extremely difficult training. She had seen how this battalion had been created with her own eyes. In her mind, this was the strongest battalion in the world. The matter had been as she had expected. This battalion that Jiangji had spent such effort to create came out like a peerless sword that intimidated the world. The Battle of Cold Mountain Jie had pushed this steely battalion to a new level. Even the Shirshu that came to reinforce them were full of praise. Jiangzi Battalion's status in the sect had continued to rise. Everyone believed that unless they encountered the core battalions of the other three great sects or the top battalions of the Yaoma, Jiangzi Battalion could dominate all other battalions. Yet the scene in front of them made this thought a joke. Cloud Si Jie was not one of the Great Four, not one of the Great 10, not one of the Great 100. In the Xiuzha world, this Cloud Si Jie was unranked. But in this little remote corner, a battalion appeared that could match the Jiangzi Battalion. This was such a terrifying matter. Feng Yu suddenly realized to her shock just how little they knew of the world. She raised her head and looked into the distance. Her heart filled with terror when she looked at the majority of enemy troops that were standing there. If the remainder also joined, her face became ashen. Gao Xian's expression became increasingly grave. He had expected this battalion to be a strong enemy, but he had not expected the other to be so strong as to reach a standstill with him. The other's fighting method was very strange, and the composition of the battalion was also very strange. He actually found MO among them. When he first saw them, he had thought his eyes were deceiving him. But the MO skills the other used, their unreasonable charges, caused him to shake. In the Battle of Cold Mountain Jie, he had seen too many MO and was very familiar with them. This was definitely MO, and a Brigadier MO. This wasn't one of them, but 10. All of them were Brigadier level. He felt this was extremely absurd. A group of MO participating in a Xiuzha battalion? And it was a group of Brigadier MO? What kind of joke was this? What he felt even more impossible to comprehend was that he couldn't detect any Jinji on their bodies. Were these Xiuzha in an alliance with the Yaoma? When this thought appeared, the coldness inside him grew. It had to be said that Gao Xian's abilities were very outstanding for Jiangji to put such responsibilities on him. After the initial probing rounds, Gao Xian had gradually gotten used to the other strange tactics and started to take back the advantage. His advantage was increasing, but the other was astoundingly hardy. Even though they were at a disadvantage, they did not panic. Suddenly, Gao Xian felt the pressure that the other gave him was slowly increasing. He quickly found that the other's cooperation between tactics was becoming smoother and more natural, the flaws smaller and the power greater. Gao Xian stilled. Thinking back to the rawness of the other's tactics just recently, his heart suddenly sank. He finally understood what the other's intentions were. The other was using him to test new battle tactics. Do you all see and understand? Lil Miss' warm voice passed into everyone's ears. Yes. Everyone's heart shook, but what was in their eyes was excitement. As expected, real combat was better than anything else for training. The stronger the other felt, the more they could test their tactics. This battalion from Xian Kong Temple was like a hard whetstone that was slowly honing them. When Wei Ran slowly climbed back from his disadvantage, everyone felt their blood slowly started to burn. This was a battalion from Xian Kong Temple. Vermilion Bird Camp had enough to be proud of to force a battalion from the four great sects to such a position. Lil Miss smiled faintly. The face like that of the neighbor's boy was filled with bashfulness. He said lightly, "Go, do not like even one escape." The people responded in unison. Murderousness spread. Vermilion Bird Camp was like a flood that lost all restraint and advanced. Jiang Zhe felt unfocused. He walked out of the room. The night wind blew past his face. He instantly felt his mind clear and laughed silently. Gao Xian was leading 500 members of the Jiangzi battalion. Even though he would not be able to take revenge for Ding Zhenshushu personally, there definitely would not be a problem keeping Feng Yu safe in her revenge. He put his attention was focused on the counterattack from the MO that was coming. According to the information from their spies, the MO were allying and forming an enormous troop to take back Cold Mountain Jia. Thinking about this, Jiang Zhe's eyes became cold. He had prepared some gifts for the other to come fight them. He was filled with hope. Suddenly, a subordinate stumbled as he flew in. Darren! The Diana Tower, the Diana Tower. Jiang Zhe's heart jumped and his expression suddenly became cold. He said in a deep voice, "What about the Diana Tower?" Stimulated by Jiang Zhe's presence, this subordinate's mind suddenly cleared and his words flowed. But his voice was still trembling. Feng Yu Darren and Gao Xian Darren's candles have gone out. The blood inside Jiang Zhe froze and his limbs felt cold. Zuoremo had never felt so comfortable. The star sand continuously honed every piece of muscle, every piece of bone, every one of his tendons. In this tempering process, a portion of the star sand merged into his blood and flesh, causing them to become perfect. Other than perfect, Zuoremo could not find a better word to describe it. The three powers circulated endlessly inside his body. They all had their own systems, but they also affected each other. The content of the MO skill steels flowed across his mind. The circulating three powers were continuously adjusted. They became even more harmonious and gained even more affinity. Zuomo's mind was unusually clear. Each thought was carried out as though every piece of muscle and blood in his body was under his control. Unprecedented confidence filled every corner of his body. Zuomo quickly found that the star sand that entered his body seemed to be attracted and was gathering towards the Sun Mo matrix at the center of his chest. As Zuomo's blood, flesh, bones, and sinews were honed, the speed that the star sand came in increased. In the end, it became streaks of starlight. These starlight continuously flowed into the Sun Mo matrix at the center of Zuomo's chest. Boom! Zuomo felt that the Sun Mo matrix at his chest seemed to be broken open. Someone appeared in his mind. This was... Zuomo slowly savored it and did not detect that there was no more star sand entering his body. A long time later, a golden light flashed and disappeared from the Sun Mo matrix at his forehead. He slowly opened his eyes. When Zuomo recovered clarity, the scene in front of him left him dumbstruck where he stood. Under the vast sky of stars, Mo filled the sky above Great Peace City like an endless black cloud. But why are they all staring at me? Chapter 583 Ripple's Silence. A deathly silence. Countless pairs of eyes moved to stare at Zuomo, who opened his eyes. The enormous Great Peace City was so silent the drop of a pin on the ground could be heard. The sky was deep and dark, the chilling night wind blew. Zuomo felt slightly uncertain at being stared by so many pairs of eyes. The scene was strangely silent. Zuomo, who already did not know what was going on, did not dare to speak rashly. However, Zuomo, who felt uncomfortable at being stared at, really could not suppress it. He coughed. The time isn't early, everyone, go to sleep early. Finishing, he waved his hand and pulled Shu Long and the others over in a flash to prepare to flee. These people had such strange expressions. Glancing his eyes across Shu Long and the others, Zhou Mo felt very weird. But at this time, there was no time to think carefully as he sprinted. The Mo along his way automatically moved to give him a path. The expressions of these people were so strange. Zhou Mo felt even worse. He unconsciously swallowed and didn't dare to stop. Mr. Xiao Mo Go, will you be free tomorrow? This one represents the Bottlin family and sincerely invites her to attend the evening party tomorrow night. In the silent night, this voice was unusually clear. It was like a spark thrown into a pot of hot oil. Great Peace City that had been deathly silent exploded. The representatives from all the other families seemed to wake up and extended branches of friendship. Mr. Xiao Mo Go. This one represents the Werlicke family. This one is wondering if there is the good fortune to invite Mr. Xiao Mo Go to a gathering at the compound. This one represents the Almond family. Mr. Xiao Mo Go. Auburn family. The wave of sounds caused Zhou Mo's mind, which had been puzzled in the first place, to blank. His expression became even more dazed. The pitiful little Mo Go did not have any of his usual dominance. He was like a frightened lamb that started to sprint even faster. Even now, he did not understand. What was going on with these people? What had happened? Lan Tianlong, who had been watching the spectacle and saw Zhou Mo's sorry state, instantly roared in laughter. He felt the scene occurring in front of him was extremely amusing. This Xiao Mo Go was a funny person. Just like him, many people grinned, but more people sank into deep thought. In the night, the lights glowing from their eyes were like bright stars. Qi Diaoye's figure was standing on the stone steel like a sword. He stared with a cold gaze at Zhou Mo's figure in thoughtfulness. As Zhou Mo left, the crowd slowly dissipated, but heated discussion filled every corner of Great Peace City. It was a fresh experience for the majority of people to personally see a worldly apparition. They discussed the turning stars, the vast star power, and speculated about Zhou Mo's Mo physique. This was a busy night. If killing Pang Chen had caused Zhou Mo to appear in the view of the public, then the shifting star sand worldly apparition caused everyone to remember the name of Xiao Mo Go. Another genius had appeared. Jiang Zhe stood in front of the Diana Tower and looked in a daze at two extinguished oil lamps inside the tower. His warm eyes were full of sorrow, and he felt as though someone was carving out his heart. That beautiful figure that always thought herself the big sister and was never polite to him would never be seen again. Starting from when he decided to create a battalion that belonged to him, Feng Yu had accompanied him and helped him take care of those tedious but necessary matters. After so many years, he was used to having her by his side. But he would never see her again. Darren, the Mo Alliance army has started to gather, the subordinate reported from outside the door. Jiang Zi's fist balled tightly, the joints turning white. His usually warm pupils were as vicious and brutal as a wild beast. He stared hard at the two extinguished lanterns. A moment later, he relaxed his fists and the savagery in his eyes disappeared. His gaze became warm again. Have everyone start to prepare. We will proceed according to the original plan. The warm voice was just the same as usual. The subordinate at the door sighed in relief, and his expression became alert as though he found support again. He hurriedly responded, "Yes." Hearing the sounds of the subordinate going away, Jiang Zhe raised his eyes and murmured gently, "It will not be long before I flatten Cloud Sijie." In Cloud Sijie, almost no one knew about the battle that had killed Xian Kong Temple's battalion. Scouts only reported that a battalion had suddenly appeared near the Jie River but was quickly exterminated. This matter did not cause any ripples. Everyone found that it was matter of fact. Even the Mo battalions fell at the foot of Lil Miss Darren, which battalion could stop Vermilion Bird Camp. Right now, Turtle Island's rule of Cloud Sijie was rock solid. Even though Turtle Island's forces that remained were not strong, these little factions also did not have great ambitions. Lil Miss had not given up his plan of going to reinforce Zhou. Even though his plan had reached a roadblock when he encountered a Zhagu, but a person like Lil Miss that was unusually stubborn of regarding victory would not easily give up. The state of Middle Granary Jie had stabilized. As Golden Crow Camp's success with MO matrices and formations increased, they would continue to grow stronger. In this battle, the hate between them and Xian Kong Temple would only increase. There would not be any possibility that this could be resolved peacefully. However, Gong Sun Cha had never thought that there was a possibility of a peaceful resolution. Would an elephant try to reach a resolution with an ant? That was a joke. There was insanity flowing in Gong Sun Cha's blood. He was not afraid. Fighting against Xian Kong Temple would only make him excited. Compared to Xian Kong Temple, what he cared about more was what Mo Shixiang. Right now, he was considering if he should fight a Xiaogu again or find another Jie had that a chaos rift. He quickly threw the idea of finding another Jie to the back of his mind. This was not very plausible. It was already good fortune to find Middle Granary Jie. It was more realistic to go find a Xiaogu. Lilmis decided to first go find a Xiaogu and have a discussion. If that did not work, then he would just fight. Gong Sun Cha, whose mind was full of ideas on how to reach Sui Mo as fast as possible, forgot that he had just reached an alliance with a Xiaogu not long ago. What happened in Cloud Sea Jie did not cause a ripple in the four realms. Everyone's gaze was attracted by another string of events. Kuan Lun's Shui Dong had conquered Fortune with Jie. This was the second Mo Jie the Xiozhe had taken over. Even though it was not as momentous as Jiangzhe, Kunlun also displayed their strength to the world. Just a few days later, two explosive pieces of news appeared. Tianhuan's Gongya Xiaorong had taken over Blackrock Jie. Xixian's Gu Liangdao conquered North Gauze Jie. Gongya Xiaorong was a famed battle general from Tianhuan, but the name Gu Liangdao was unfamiliar to everyone and he appeared out of nowhere. However, this did not stop the celebrations of the people of the four realms. Everyone was filled with hope about the war now that the four great sects had all advanced. Everyone dreamed that the four great sects could continue their victory over the Yaoma after the 1,000-Year War. The development of the state of affairs appeared natural as people had predicted this. Zhou Mo gaped as he listened with astonishment to Xu Long and the others' narration. Thinking that he had been the cause of that terrifying scene, Zhou Mo felt even worse. However, Zhou Mo's first response was to run into the sea of consciousness and hurriedly asked Pu Yao and Wei, "Would today affect our plan?" Pu Yao and Wei did not speak and looked at Zhou Mo as though they were looking at a freak. Zhou Mo became impatient. Talk. According to their previous plan, Zhou Mo needed to attract the attention of the large families. However, even Zhou Mo felt he had gone overboard with today's display. What he was worried about was that if this affected the plan, he would not be able to attract the arrival of Princess Xia. That would be bad. Do not worry. The one who spoke was Pu Yao. Even though his expression was strange, he still spoke. This display of yours can definitely attract Princess Xia. That's good. Zhou Mo seemed to be relieved of a great burden. Zhou, you are very talented, Wei said with a smile. These words caused Pu Yao to instantly have a wary expression. You only noticed now? In a good mood, Zhou Mo lazily replied. Then he suddenly looked with a heated gaze at Zhou Mo, his thumb and index finger rubbing together. He asked with begging eyes, "Is there a reward? Such a genius is in front of you, will you not express something?" Seeing Wei's shocked expression, Zhou Mo felt very disappointed. He looked disdainfully at Wei and muttered, "So this is just empty praise? Ha! Are people that only give empty praise in this era? The honored gravestone armor, such a lowering of status." Finishing, he left without another glance at Wei. Looking at Wei frozen in his spot, Pu Yao gave a roaring and carefree laugh. Coming out of the sea of consciousness, Zhou Mo saw Tseng Lianer's serene eyes. "How come you are able to cause a movement in the stars?" Tseng Lianer's voice seemed to become ethereal in the night. "Because..." Zhou Mo, who had not been rewarded, looked at her bewitching face with a serious expression as he said with emphasis, "I am a genius." Finishing, he disregarded Tseng Lianer's wide eyes and walked towards his rooms. In reality, even he didn't know why he would cause the shifting star sand. After being awake for a night, he didn't feel tired at all. He felt as though his body contained endless power. Entering the room, he quickly sank into meditation. He needed to have a good study of his breakthrough today. Also, he remembered that something seemed to float out when those starlight charged into the Sun Mo matrix at the center of his chest. In meditation, Zhuo did not have joy nor sorrow on his face. Every piece of muscle, blood and bone inside his body was perfectly visualized. The completely new 3-power system was so enchanting. Countless images flowed across his mind. He suddenly opened his eyes and his expression seemed slightly excited. He finally knew what had came into his mind the moment the Sun Mo matrix had been flooded, the first transformation of the 10-crow celestial apparatus. Chapter 584, Low Opinion. Bu Heng's expression was extremely dark. He had been deeply impacted when he saw Zhuo cause the shifting stars' sands. More accurately, he had a strong feeling of danger. It was not a wise course of action to be enemies with a genius that could cause worldly apparitions. However, their grudge was already set in stone. It was too late to peacefully resolve this. Bu Heng was still calm. The mind of a gold battle general was as strong and hard as stone. Viciousness flashed across his face. The best way to deal with a genius youth was to kill it in its cradle before they grew up. Genius youths before they became stronger did not have more lives than anyone else. He decided to personally get in contact with a person. Zhuo flipped through the mountain of invitations, but his face fell. There isn't one from the Anwei family. Not just Anwei family, there wasn't an invitation from the top families. These were all invitations from small families. Zhuo, who had been extremely interested and filled with pride, seemed to have been hit over the head and felt very depressed. Is it because my performance is not eye-catching enough? Zhuo pondered. It is not that you are not eye-catching. Pu Yao was experienced and explained. You have displayed great potential, but 1, your origins are unknown, and 2, you have not been tested in real combat. Pang Chen is a famous warrior, but in Great Peace City he is not ranked. The bigger the family, the more cautious and strict their tests. Zhuo understood. His eyebrow raised. So they don't feel that I am strong enough? You can understand it this way. There was a careless smile on Pu Yao's face. You have showed strong potential, but if that potential cannot become strength, it is forever potential. The internal competition in those families isn't something you can imagine. They have many youths with potential. What they need are experts, not youths with potential. I understand. Zhuo stood up. It seems that I need to defeat some strong people before I can attract their attention. Without another word, he went to find Tao Xing. Tao Xing's attitude towards Zhuo had completely changed now. He had been astounded by the worldly apparition that night. Originally, he had felt somewhat proud because he was a city master. Wherever he went, people respected him. However, that bit of ego had dissipated. Shifting star sand, a worldly apparition that only existed in the legends, actually occurred in front of him. Compared to the other, Tao Xing didn't feel that he was really worth something. Tao Xing's attitude was respectful. Darren, for what have you found me for? Zhuo was slightly surprised at Tao Xing's attitude, but he did not inquire about it. He asked directly, tell me about the experts of Great Peace City. The experts of Great Peace City? Tao Xing paused. Inside, he thought, was this young man going to make a challenge again? In his mind, Zhuo was someone that was restless. But since Zhuo asked, Tao Xing decided to give him a good explanation so that Zhuo would understand who he could provoke and who he could not. There are many experts in Great Peace City, and they are all called famous warriors. However, there are ranks among these famous people. Pang Chen, who you defeated, is only a normal famous person and was unranked. These famous warriors are general level and have MO physiques. The experts among the famous warrior have a ranking called the Great Peace MO ranking. It records the 20 most powerful experts in Great Peace City. The 3 strongest are Chang Yuan Hao, Yu Shuang and Nan Meng Shui. They're just a step away from martial rank. Qi Diaoyu is also at this level, but it has been many years since he appeared in Great Peace City, so his name is not on the Great Peace MO ranking. Zuemo listened carefully. The second tier is the 4th to 12th spots. The experts of this level have been in general level for many years and are experts that have comprehended boundary. The third tier is the 13th to the 20th positions. The experts of this level have not comprehend boundary, but if they are not cultivating an unique MO physique, they use a powerful MO skill in order to reach this spot on the Great Peace MO ranking. Lan Tianlong is this level. He is 18th. Under them is the famous warrior ranking. The people on the Great Peace MO ranking are not ones that we can challenge. Most of them have come for the Great Peace MO skill steals, and do not attend to outside matters. In comparison, the changes in the famous warrior rankings is more intense. The possibility of victory is also greater. If you are interested, you can try the famous person rankings. Tao Xing said probingly to Zuemo. If this one had to make a challenge, then it would be best if he went to the famous warrior ranking. It was alright for him to try the famous warrior ranking since he had killed Pang Chen in 2 moves and Pang Chen's ranking on the famous warrior ranking was not low. Zuemo glanced at him, asking, "What is the 20th person on the Great Peace MO ranking called?" Tao Xing's face instantly turned ashen, his heart beating rapidly. He said timidly, "Darren, you can start from the famous warrior ranking, this also has many experts." Famous warrior ranking? Zuemo's head shook like a rattle drum. Just by listening to it, he knew the weight of the famous warrior ranking was not enough. In order to move an ancient family like the Anwei family which had high standards, if he could not reach the Great Peace MO ranking, the other wouldn't even look at him properly. Thinking about the pile of stupid invitations, Zuemo's eyes twitched. He was being underestimated. The 20th of Great Peace MO ranking. Zuemo's attitude was determined. Tao Xing shrunk back under Zuemo's pressuring gaze. He said with a startled heart, "Miao Jun. Miao Jun." Zuemo repeated, his gaze murderous. Tao Xing looked at Zuemo's vicious expression. His legs softened and he sat down on the ground. Ajagu was slightly shocked. Gong Sun Cha had come to find him again. He did not know why. The two of them had just entered an alliance. Did Gong Sun Cha had some new ideas? "Brother Gong Sun, is there something that you come to find this one with?" Ajagu was not afraid and directly asked. Ajagu's straightforward attitude suited Gong Sun Cha's appetites. He said seriously, "This one wants Brother Ajagu to give up the Chaos Rift." Ajagu's expression suddenly changed and his eyes darkened. What does Brother Gong Sun mean? Gong Sun Cha knew that he was the one asking something outrageous, but there was no reasoning that could be spoken of in this matter. He was silent for a moment before saying, "This one is compelled by the circumstances. This one is willing to make this up to Brother Ajagu in other places." Ajagu smiled coldly. "This one wants to hear the circumstances." Gong Sun Cha was very honest and narrated the situation. Other than not saying Zuemo's name, he did not conceal anything else. After Ajagu heard this, his anger dissipated. He was a person that was attuned to details and he naturally could hear the truthfulness of Gong Sun Cha's words. He still shook his head. Brother Gong Sun is a good friend and this one is moved. However, Orchid Home Jie is an important part of my clan and definitely cannot be given up. If brother wants to go though, that is fine. Lil Miss shook his head. We will successively send out battalions. We also need more MO experts in order to increase our reinforcements. Ajagu suddenly laughed. Brother Gong Sun is really fantasizing. The Yaoma have deep hate with Xiuzhe, how can they work for you? Gong Sun Cha glanced at Ajagu, saying, "Brother Ajagu, please wait for a moment." A short while later, a large crowd of MO suddenly appeared in front of Lil Miss and bowed to him. Ajagu suddenly stood up. He stared at the MO in front of him and almost didn't believe his eyes. What surprised him even more was that they were all Brigadier M. Even within his battalion, these would be elite members. There were dozens of them in front of him. I believe that Brother Ajagu can see that they are truly MO and we have not put Jinji in them. Gong Sun Cha's words came. Ajagu stared hard at this MO. He suddenly asked in a deep voice, Why are you working for Xiozha? Ide's brow furrowed. Who is working for Xiao? We are in the service of our king. King? Ajagu almost froze where he stood. He was sure that his smart mind wasn't enough to use today. He saw a group of Brigadier Mo within a Xiozha battalion, and then these Mo were saying they were in the service of king. Then what were these Xiozha? Just like he did not believe that Mo would stay in the service of Xiozha, he also did not believe that Xiozha would work for Mo, even if he was king. Ide was very displeased at the other's gaze. However, he still narrated how their king had been lost to the Xiozha world, how he had cultivated the Great Day Mo physique by himself, how he had created a Xiozha battalion, how he had fought against Yi Ling Daren and received everyone's loyalty. These absurd words were being spoken by a Brigadier Mo, and when this was said as she stood with several dozen Mo, it became extremely convincing. But Ajagu felt it was incomprehensible. Looking at Ide's troops, he was motionless for a long time. Gong Sun Cha glanced over. This was possible. He hurriedly pulled Ajagu to watch Vermilion Bird Camp's new tactics. Ajagu's mind, which had been dizzy, suddenly cleared up. His eyes widened as he stared hard at this battalion. He could see that the skeleton of this battalion was still the battalion that he had fought against before, but that the Brigadier Mo had been added. This was the first battalion he had ever seen that was composed of Xiozha and Mo mixed together. This kind of heterogeneous battalion had extremely unique tactics. Even though he was only seeing the foot of the mountain, he still inhaled sharply. Such a transformation! In this short time, this battalion had completely transformed. Their present strength caused Ajagu's heart to beat wildly. His gaze turned to that bashful youth that had the face of an innocent neighbor's boy. For some reason, coldness continuously corroded his bravery and was unable to be suppressed. His limbs felt cold. As one of the 3 great battle generals of the stellar Rahula clan, Ajagu never lacked for bravery. But his face was ashen as though he had just been defeated in a battle. He knew that if the two fought again, he had no chance of victory. The faint smile on Gong Sun Cha's face was so profound. Ajagu did not know what had happened in these days that a battalion could transform so completely. This youth, he saw the insanity and stubbornness in the depths of Gong Sun Cha and suddenly understood, he's a madman. That you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.